Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
The other schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
this one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
The epitome of what this team has done, right? Gavin homers, Jace homers, Braden homers, Chris Cortez, 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
So we're obviously in wait-and-see mode for the 10 o'clock game between Florida and Kentucky. Was hoping to get that game in yesterday, but actually I don't mind. Whatever's going to tax them as long as they get both games in today. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan here on Wednesday, June the 19th, 2024. OB, got an easy question. Now, we got a long way to go for a national championship. There's still one step to get to it, to one win to get there, and then obviously two more. But
3 wins away.
3 wins away from the big three sports at A&M. In your time covering Big 12, SEC sports, okay? Is this the best you have felt of the big three sports, A&M winning a national championship? Today.
Yeah, I thought that I've seen football teams from my time covering that were good enough to win. A&M in 93, A&M in 2012, and I even thought 2013. But then the defense was so
atrocious.
bad.
Yep.
I didn't think they could win it in 2020 because Alabama was just that good. Basketball, I wasn't covering them, but I do remember that AC Law team when they should have beaten Memphis.
That team had a chance.
But this baseball team, and if not for the injuries,
They're the closest.
Oh yeah, I mean three wins away,
and they're the team that's been, to me, the most consistent of, I think we're a championship level team. Because the Johnny team, there was some questions early. We didn't know Johnny. Johnny became Johnny. And then there were some losses in the middle of the year that you're like.
They lost to LSU in a game they let get away from them.
There was the Florida game and then the LSU game.
Yeah, the Florida, and you know, they got hosed. I think they beat Florida if Louisiana Tech hadn't pulled out of the opener because of a hurricane threat, and there wasn't a drop of rain in Shreveport. I think if Johnny would have had just one game under his belt, they beat Florida. 2020
season, had they got the playoffs, would we have liked their matchup against Alabama if they replayed them? Probably not, but they would have had but I think this team is the closest to it that we've seen. Now, the tennis team this year that won a national championship, women's tennis, congratulations to Mark Weaver in the group. That team, right? I remember feeling very good about them winning a championship when Mark Weaver was sitting here in studio before he left, and he's like, yeah, I feel pretty good about this.
Yeah.
When the coach can say that to you, I feel pretty good. But we're talking about the big three sports. This is the closest, of this BAS that some of us have. This is the closest we have been to a national championship with 3 check marks to go.
All right, 3, and you have a decided advantage. Well, I shouldn't say decided advantage. You have an advantage
in your
for
bracket.
The next one.
Yep.
And if it comes to it, you get 2 shots at it too. So you got to get 3 wins. The only thing is, again, on the one hand, it gives you pause because of the injuries.
Yep.
But on the other hand, you're seeing something in these guys, a championship pedigree because of the way they respond. And I think championship teams just have this it factor, this innate quality that can't be coached, that just find a way to win no matter what the obstacles. Now, are they going to be asked to do it too much? I don't know, maybe. But from what we've seen, it's just there's something different about those guys on that team.
Yep. And they are the so for you all listening today and watching on the CW, on the Zone 1150, on YouTube, on TexAgs.com, is this the best you have felt for a national championship team? We all have that vibe before the season starts. Football not every year, but many years. Like, this could be the year, guys. This could be the week.
This could be.
There's no next year, Nuño. This is this week, Nuño.
That's it, right there. That's a bulletin. Stop the presses. It's this year, Nuño.
Guys, within less than 7 days, A&M could be a national champion.
Could be.
Now, I am not saying that to for bad juju. I'm just saying the facts remain. They're 3 wins away from a national championship. You win today at 6 o'clock, right? Hopefully.
Yeah.
And then you know what? I wish Braden was there. I wish Shane was there. I wish. But if it's Florida State or if it's Tennessee, let's see what happens. Let's go, because this team takes over odds. I mean, they do well when it back against the wall when you're one of the top 5 teams in the country isn't the right way to phrase it. But when you lose potentially Jace, which I think we feel better about Jace, you lose Braden Montgomery, you shouldn't be in this position. But guess what? They're in this freaking position.
That's what I mean.
This week, Nuño.
This week, Nuño. I'm liking it. Doesn't have the alliteration, but that's okay. National champion Nuño.
Potentially next week, Nuño. Potentially, because Monday. Well, I guess Sunday. To win a championship, it'll have to be next week. But within a week, Nuño.
Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't even get to Monday.
No, but Sunday's considered next week.
Well, then why is it the weekend?
I don't know, but why does the week start on Sundays?
I thought it started on Monday.
That's the work week.
To me, Saturday. Define the weekend.
To me,
I'm just asking you. Define the weekend.
To me, the week ends on Sunday, but on calendars, the week begins on Sunday.
I guess you're right on calendars.
But who made that rule? Stupid calendar guy. Sorry. A bit aggressive there.
I'm so mad at myself for not being able to remember the band. I was going to say, is it Loverboy, who, when they said everybody's working for the weekend, they were referring to
the singer
Saturday and Sunday. No, not I saw that guy at the Super Bowl, and I said, if that's the weekend, I'd rather. I can't wait till Monday. I'd rather work.
Hey, we got to hear that song on the way back, right?
Everybody's working for the weekend.
Yeah. Well,
is that Loverboy?
Probably. I mean, Billy's probably listening right now thinking, what in the world?
Now he knows.
These 2 yahoos. Yeah, he knows. When it comes to music, he knows. And he knows football. So, speaking of Jace, I did not personally hear this, okay? On the boards, I saw that on the SEC network.
Loverboy.
It was Loverboy?
Yeah.
On the SEC network, Schloss said Jace will play in some form. I didn't see it personally. This was on the boards, and people were commenting on it. Even Bronny commented that he was getting some good intel. So,
because did he not say that Hayden Schott could play in the field?
Could play in the field. Where did that come up on the show? That was yesterday on this show.
So where would you put Hayden Schott?
Right field.
Right field. Somebody who's baseball, Cade maybe answer this. Is left field considered an easier position to play than right field?
I think right field is considered the easier position. But, Cade, you're a baseball guy. Tell us.
Well, David, I think it's
disregard.
I know that one time the Rangers, way back when, they put
Jose Canseco in right field.
Well, they acquired a guy from the Mets named Lee Mazzilli, who was terrible, by the way. And they put him in left field, and he was offended. He said left field's an idiot's position.
Well, for teams that pull, right, with a lot of right-handed bats.
I mean, I don't know.
I think you want to bet. Look.
I would say left field is easier.
Okay. There you
I
go.
would say you have to have you usually have your better bat, a little bit better arm in right field. I think in right field you need that better arm. So
what about where do you need to move more?
I think maybe at this field I'd say right. Maybe just because that a lot of balls seem to be getting hit in that gap. And then a lot of balls seem to be getting hit down that line.
So all these years they put me in right field, it was because I was good, not because I sucked.
Batting ninth in right field, Olin Buchanan.
Frankly, I would put Schott at first base. Frankly,
first base. Okay, what are you gonna do with Burton?
I would put Burton at second, and then you can put Grahovac in the outfield. You can put Kent at third. You can put Camarillo at short, and then you can have Chestnut and Sorrell in the outfield still. DH Jace.
Here's the thing. They know, right? Like, they know what they can do. Not only did they probably work on it, hey, in this scenario, had they worked on it in the, I think even Billy brought up the Prairie View games. Like, there's certain games where you kind of mix and match just in case. They know who can play where.
Yeah.
So whatever they decide is probably the right play.
Well, if you're Jack Moss, no matter what, you'd be betting on the Aggies.
I love that sound. He's no longer playing, but like we keep that in there. And hey, we got a phone call early in the show. Awesome. Without even asking for phone calls.
That's great.
979-693-1150 is the phone number. 979-693-1150 is the phone number to call the show. What do you think? Is this the closest to a championship you have felt? Like legitimately felt about one of the big three sports? We go to the hotline. Jerry wants to talk a little Aggie baseball. Jerry, welcome to TexAgs.
Jerry? Oh, there you are. Jerry?
Jerry,
going?
Jerry, you might be on the radio in a second, so just be ready when
Hello.
Jerry, when Nuño goes to you, be ready to be on the radio, all right? He's going to be coming any second. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's go to the hotline. Jerry's on there. Jerry, good morning, buddy.
I'm here.
Hey, man.
What's on your mind, Jerry?
I hope this keeps going. I really do. Hi, Jerry.
Jerry.
Can we?
I think we're going to
Jerry, are you chewing on something?
I'm here.
Do you hear
What's
us?
on your mind?
Huh.
Hi, Jerry.
He's hearing us.
I'm here, but I can't hear you.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, guess what?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No.
Well, if you can't hear us, you wouldn't know.
There you are.
Oh,
hey, Jerry! Cousin Jerry! Hey, buddy.
Guys.
What's on your mind, Jerry?
Just on the question about wouldn't it's easier to play left field or right field?
Yeah.
Right field is considered the hardest because you have to make a throw occasionally over all the way to third base to cut down a runner. And so whoever has the best arm plays right field, and so that's why it's considered the toughest.
Okay.
But
that's why Braden Montgomery was playing out there.
Yeah.
So let me ask this for baseball minds. Having the best arm doesn't necessarily mean you cover the most ground, though. And obviously, center field, you typically have a guy who can cover more ground.
Right.
But does it matter where the ball, if they have a lot of right-handed bats, and a lot of balls are going to left field, wouldn't you want somebody?
Wouldn't you shade your
center
fielder over toward right tonight if you have to put a shot out there or somebody else?
Baseball 101 here on TexAgs
we're
Radio.
learning.
Yeah, you can take that into consideration for sure. Left-handed batters, right-handed batters, but just growing up baseball all my life and coaching, right field was, the tougher position, and you put your guy out there with the best arm.
But in Little League, right field's the worst player. That's a fact.
Nuño with a gun out in right field.
Yeah, like a shotgun.
Yeah.
Like the one I carry around with me, and they won't let me in stores with. Yes. Jerry, anything else about the Aggies?
That's it, man. Just let's pull those Aggies through. We're almost there. Almost there.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling.
All right.
See you.
Great show. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was cool. We finally got through that one.
Yeah,
took a minute.
It was worth the wait.
Yeah, he was good. So if you want to be a part of the conversation, you know how to do it. 979-693-1150 is the number. We go around to say hello to the people here. By the way, this is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Cade, we already checked in with you, but we didn't say hi, so it's not official until we say hi. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, y'all. How are y'all doing? Y'all doing good?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
I'm good.
I mean, it's this week Nuño, so I'm doing really well.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited that this game. I'm glad that this game between Florida and Kentucky is this morning. I'm glad that that's this morning. Makes it much tougher for them later tonight. And so it's tough to play 2 in a day when you were expecting the day before to have a little bit of a break.
Especially if they have to go through a lot of arms, right?
Well, yeah, but that would be an issue. No, to me, it's a minimal addition to your advantage because these are still 21-year-old athletes.
Yeah.
So I think I can get myself ready to play if, say, the game that starts at 10 is over with at 2. I think you can still get, at that age, you can still get yourself ready. You got 4 hours to get ready, I think.
Sure, but
the arms.
That's the one that
But if you used up all the arms last night, they still wouldn't be available.
Sure, but maybe a guy can give you an inning in a certain scenario. I don't know. Like, it all depends on the guy, right? And what they're facing. Like,
but you know what? No, it's not an advantage if you don't capitalize on it.
That's true. Hopefully they both lose.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein. Hey, buddy.
Morning, y'all. How are y'all?
Good.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
confident
good.
in some Aggie baseball, are we?
I am, and I'm kind of a pessimistic dude when it comes to my teams. Right?
I know. I'm not. But you'll change
in the game. I'll change in an inning.
You'll go back and forth.
I'll go on a football game. In a football game, I'll go from first quarter thinking we're going to go 12-0 to I don't know if we're going to win a game this year. In the same game.
Yeah.
In the same moment, I can go like that.
I know.
You've been there
right next to you.
Yeah. I'm emotional. Even my soccer team that wins all the championships, I sometimes go into games until game day like, I don't know if we can do it again. I don't know. The odds are against us. The odds are against us. We win everything. So I'm just pessimistic. All right, Carson.
I wanted to get into a text we got from Rhett in Orlando saying championship teams need some breaks to go their way. I think the winner of the Kentucky-Florida having to play a doubleheader today seems like a huge break for the Ags.
I'll take any edge or perceived edge I can get. Just get the win today. And who's going to pitch today?
For the Aggies?
Yeah.
It might depend on the matchup.
Yeah.
Bronny yesterday said on this show that he didn't think Lampkin would go again if it's Florida because they had seen him already, and potentially not even Kentucky because Lampkin's got some similar stuff to Prager. But, Brad Root is potentially going for a couple innings, going 2 to 3 innings, hopefully.
And then going to Cortez and so on and so forth.
Close that mother out.
I'm all for it.
All for that. What else?
6 o'clock's going to take a while to get here.
There's a lot of it's now Nuño, right now Nuño.
Right now Nuño, that's even better.
Ahora mismo Nuño.
Yeah, because you can still have the alliteration.
Yeah, you can. Right now Nuño. If we win a when, whatever, whichever word you want to use.
Yeah.
Those are the next shirts.
I like that.
I like the short ideas we come up with that never become a reality.
Yeah, that's right.
There's one that's going to be a reality real soon.
Which one is that?
I can't say it on the air.
Oh, okay.
But it's good.
All right.
It's like
something you said?
You may have said it.
Really?
It might be your words.
Oh.
I hope it's mine, but I think it's yours. I'll tell you at the break.
Okay.
But it's been said on this show on multiple occasions.
All right.
All right. Carson, one more.
We got a text from Mike saying, you cannot move Burton off of first. He handles the ball way too many plays a game for the Ags.
Yeah, kind of with that. Yeah. The play he made in 2 nights ago on the flip from Kent that went up too high, and he stretched out, and that was a big out.
Yeah,
kept his foot. Yeah, he just does, and he's dug some out. Yeah, I think you gotta keep Burton right there.
Let me go back to the right field versus left field conversation because I'm having my baseball, most of my baseball knowledge comes from the 80s Oakland A's teams, or early 90s, late 80s, and the Astros championship runs, okay? Those were most of my baseball knowledge, where I was really, didn't miss a second. And on those 88 teams, okay, you had Jose Canseco in right field. Mm-hmm. Not a good fielder, great arm. You had Ricky Henderson at left field, incredible fielder, not a great arm. Dave Parker, who played a little bit of center and right, and Dave Henderson, all were not very good fielders, but they had great arms. So what I'm saying is, I think the guy who's not as good with a good arm goes in right field, unless you're Braden Montgomery and you're great at everything.
Now,
based on the 80s, Oakland A's.
See, I always base everything from my years of watching the Detroit Tigers because they had a good right fielder and a good left fielder and a good center fielder, and then they had a Cecil fielder.
Did you think of that right now?
Yeah, I'm so stupid. I'm the Lee Corso of TexAgs Radio. Just say old guys saying stupid crap.
Too bad they didn't have a Prince fielder. Oh, wait, they did.
They did. Is there any difference in the way the ball typically are the...
We sound like a bunch of idiots talking about this.
We really do.
Let's move on.
Is it easier to...
There's going to be a conversation about this. There's right now...
I guarantee you somebody that's a real baseball, like Brauninger, doesn't just watch it and appreciate it, but kind of kind of delves into it. And
Bronny wouldn't answer that question. Well, tell me the situation. Is it like 14 left-handed batters?
In general, Bronny.
What if the wind?
He's not even here, and I'm getting frustrated.
Who's
with
pitching? Like, you can't just answer that
in
question.
In general, Bronny.
Yeah, just like usually.
I think the balls that are hit to left field typically are easier plays.
So, for example,
I just said that. I don't know.
In youth sports, typically you put the worst fielder in right field. In soccer, you put him like at one of the top forward positions, one of the winger positions, which is, by the way, a very important position, but you don't get killed on defense. It kind of depends, but we're not talking youth sports. We're talking College World Series.
Yes, we are.
A bunch of idiots.
Somehow we got
radio.
to soccer.
Bartles and James over here just being old on the Cocoon Show.
Thank you for your support.
Hey, thank you very much. Aggies headquarters in Omaha. If you're headed to Omaha, if you're already there, go hang out with the Association of Former Students because you want to watch Aggie baseball beat the hell out of everyone. They are teaming up with the 12th Man Foundation to invite you to a pregame gathering at the Aggie headquarters located at DJ's Dugout Sports Bar in downtown Omaha. The event begins 3 hours before each Aggie game and wraps up about 30 minutes prior to the first pitch, giving you plenty of time for that 12-minute walk to the stadium. Enjoy good bull with fellow Aggies and free registration that includes snacks, complimentary drink ticket to kick off the game day activities. Make sure to head over to the Aggie headquarters in Omaha and be ready to watch the Aggie baseball team. For more information for the event, register at tx.ag/OmahaHQ. That is tx.ag/OmahaHQ. It's the Association of Former Students. Hi guys, no songs for you today. Just a bunch of song or what?
I didn't get working for the weekend.
That's all right.
Loverboard.
We'll get it later. We'll get it right. That's how we roll here. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We got some phone calls to get to here in a minute. I also want to read this text from Chase in Houston, our buddy Chase Hernandez, who says, hell yeah, Nuño, this team can win it all. Why not speak it into existence? By the way, no, it's not easier. Right field is not harder than left field. Apparently it's up for debate.
But you know what? The point that I can't remember, I've already forgotten the caller's name, that he made, that a right fielder is asked to make that throw from right to third base sometimes. You know, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's do this. Let's hit that was Jerry who had that call.
Jerry, of course.
979-693-1150 is our number. We go to the hotline. Dave wants to talk a little Aggie baseball. Dave, welcome to TexAgs. Howdy.
Real quick, guys, excellent show. I'm calling from Edmond here. I was thinking about going to one game. I have a little money. I don't have OB money, but I want to go to one game. What's your advice? Which game should I go to?
Game 1 of the College World Series? Or the Monday game?
Well, it may not even get to Monday.
So the Sunday game? That way you're guaranteed?
I would. First of all, you're talking about one game because you do make OB money. If you made Nuño money, you'd already be there.
Interesting. I'm not there
because you're here. You're working. But I would say I would go for. I would want to go when Prager pitches.
Which I wish I could say out loud is game 1, but you don't know with this team.
Yeah. It's probably going to be Saturday.
Yeah. Game 1. But they got to win this one first.
We'll do. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate you.
At least he doesn't have
he
doesn't have a long drive if he's in Edmond, you know.
How long of a drive do you think that is? 6 hours?
Probably. Because I figure Edmond's close to halfway from.
Yep.
How long do you think it takes to get to Oklahoma City from here? 6 hours?
I did it recently.
6 hours.
6 to 7 hours, I think it is. Yeah.
And then I think it's a 12-hour drive.
I drove to Tulsa, and Tulsa was, I think, 7 hours. So, yeah, Oklahoma City's a little closer. Is that right?
Yeah, about
979.
He's halfway there.
693-1150 is the number. Here's a question for you. This postseason, and I'm not including the SEC tournament.
Okay.
Which has been the most difficult game? I think there's only one answer.
It seemed to me that it was the Texas game.
Yeah. Yeah. There was games that were like the Oregon game where we exploded for 9 runs was obviously tense. Right?
Yeah. Because they had to come from behind.
Right. And you're thinking to yourself, I guess we're going to have to do it tomorrow. Right. Even the game against Kentucky, it was 1 inning. It was brilliant pitching throughout, but it was 1 inning that gave that was a tense game. But I think the hardest game, and I think part of it mentally emotional, right? Emotionally draining, the stakes, that being one of your rivals, if not your biggest rival, like all those storylines, and you're down. I think it's got to be the Texas game.
I think so. And remember, a big play in that game was a Texas error, right? And now, if you want to come back and say, wait a minute, they were down 8-4 against Oregon. And I know but they ended up winning by a big margin.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think the game, at least that I was holding my breath the most, was the Texas game.
We got another caller. David, not Dave. David wants to talk Ryan Targach here on TexAgs Radio. David, good morning, buddy.
So what's on your mind, David?
Yeah, I just want to know, why haven't I heard bringing in Ryan Targach as to bringing somebody in to play?
For who?
For anybody. We got so many people hurt, and we're talking about bringing in people and moving people around.
We're talking about moving people around. I don't think we're talking about bringing people in just yet because you don't want to lose Jace Lavalette. I think what you're saying is if Jace is not able to go, would Ryan Targach be one of the names we look at? Yeah, but he hasn't played consistently in a while. Like, he's had he played. When's the last time he played? The Arkansas series?
Well, he came in. I guess it was that Arkansas game where he had the big hit. That
yes.
But hold on with me for just a second. I think quite frankly, even though he's a great kid, I think Ryan has, for the most part, has struggled when he's played
this year, and he's had some injuries to overcome. And
he's hitting 220.
Yeah.
I
love the kid, and I'd love to. And I think I said this yesterday. You may have texted the show, David, but I think because Schloss said this on the air, I feel comfortable saying it. I think he's still going to play a role this season. Is that a pinch hitter? Is that a big hit? Is it maybe coming in? But I don't think you think of we think of Targo from 2 years ago when we talk about him. But frankly, this team's got a lot of players that have surpassed him at the moment, right?
And I'm looking at the stats, and I don't mean to. I like him, but when I go to Costa Vida, I get the Ryan Targott special, right? But here's the facts. Not only is he hitting 220.
Well played, by the way. I was very proud of you.
Not only is he hitting 220, but he's been to bat 59 times, and he struck out 23 times.
And it's been – when was that Arkansas game? A month?
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks maybe?
Yeah.
So it's been a minute.
The point is that, can he do – does he have power? He can hit with power. But, I mean, you're looking at trying to win a national championship now, and pinch hitting is one thing, but are you going to replace – and, I don't know what position you're going to play him at, second. I mean, I don't know. You got second baseman. That's not a problem. I think you just had a position where his performance at the plate has been too inconsistent. And now that I would think.
But I know
you know what? Schloss ain't going to make shock us all in starting.
But Schloss does trust the young man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good kid, right? Like he's a good kid who has had brilliant moments for this program.
That's true.
So, David, I think you're on to something, but the reason we're not talking about it is because out of sight, out of mind, unfortunately for him, right? Like other players.
I appreciate the answer, boys.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate the answer.
Appreciate you, David. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you for the discussion.
Yeah, I
guess.
Gig 'em.
In a situation like that, I'm uncomfortable talking about it because
I don't know.
Yeah, and plus, he's a very likable guy, but you don't. But you gotta tell the truth, right?
But he's on to something. Like you don't have that much depth. Like you're injured. And you didn't bring the whole crew to Omaha, so he might play a part in the story.
But again, where would he play? Does he play? Does he have a history of playing in the outfield? I don't know. It seems like when I've watched him play, he was a DH or a second baseman. But that doesn't mean that I haven't missed something.
Hey, we got to hit a break here because Richard Zane's coming back to join us here on the next segment.
Well, maybe
also,
Richard will know.
Our good friend Greg Jasper from the Angry Elephant did the drive to Oklahoma City yesterday.
Oh, really?
5 hours, 45 minutes.
Okay. And Edmond, I don't know if Edmond's north or south of Oklahoma City, but yeah, it's about. So we were in the ballpark.
Did you know that Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant?
I do know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that the Social Center is named after the Angry Elephant?
The Angry Social Center?
Well, that's typically you. You're
Yeah,
typically
I'm an angry old man.
I'm a happy person. You, on the other hand.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with the Zaniac. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time to talk a little FBS Appliance. Their team of experts are there to help you find the appliance to make your house a home. They have all the top brands you can imagine to make your life easier and fit any budget. They've been caring for Texas since 1988. They've got Bosch as one of their top brands out there, but they have many other ones. They have an expert staff, trained installers to guide you through your purchase because FBS Appliance wants to be your trusted appliance store. Their commitment to customer satisfaction is at the core of everything that they do. They've assembled a team of trained sales professionals who are experts in their field. They will personalize your purchase for you. Their services don't stop at sales. They offer expert installation carried out by skilled technicians, and they're committed to delivering an exceptional experience from start to finish. You can trust them to help you out the entire way. Visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas or find them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That is factorybuilderstores.com. FBS Appliance, check them out. Cheerio. Welcome.
Everybody's working for the weekend. That's the bumper music today.
Do you love bumper music?
Actually, sometimes I really do.
Hey, what's the name of this show?
The Go Hour.
Presented by?
CC Creations.
We're in the what studio?
Rollo Insurance Studio.
That's just correct. And the entire presentation is called?
It's brought to you by the Gym of the Guy, David Gardner.
David Gardner.
There's a lot of Davids on the show today.
Today is all about
David Nuño, David.
You know
David
why?
Gardner.
Because I'm right now Nuño.
Right now.
Here, right now.
Right now, Nuño. Right here, right now.
Hey, Zach Henderson.
Jesus Jones.
A buddy of mine, and I know you know Zach as well. He says, I booked a flight to Omaha for Sunday morning. I'm hoping I'm not jinxing the Aggies. Curious to see how many Aggies are planning to go up there for a Sunday, possibly Monday championship game. Thought it'd be cool to hear from you guys and who's the Aggie plans. So let us know. Are you planning on going? Are you waiting for today? How are you making your travel arrangements?
Yeah. I would fly to Kansas City and rent a car and drive it the rest of the way. It'd be cheaper, and I don't mind driving 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
That's not bad. I believe we have Richard Zane on the hotline. Richard, good morning, buddy.
Yeah, hey guys. Two things. Olin, is that a haircut?
Yeah.
Looks good.
Very nice.
It's summer cut.
Looking good. And then second thing, as far as travel plans go, I'm trying to figure out how to get Big Jen up to Omaha later this week.
Wait. Big
Jen? Go well today.
I've seen her. She's quite petite, isn't she?
Say that again?
I said Big Jen. I said I've seen her. She's quite petite.
Term of endearment.
Yeah, it's a term of endearment. You know the nickname I've given to the starting pitcher that pitched on Monday.
Yeah.
So when he pitched, we decided we could change one letter and she could be the Big Jen.
I'm just gonna say if I referred to the wife as Big Irma, I don't think it would be accepted as a term of endearment.
Good point. As you get older, Richard, as she gets closer to 30s, I don't think she's going to want to hear that. Hey, tell me about because we got some baseball to get into here in a second, but just not a lot has changed since yesterday, since the game did not happen. What is can you feel the attendance get a little bit more Aggie Maroonish out there?
I mean, I thought A&M has always had a pretty good showing out here, even since the entire event started. We were here 2 years ago, right? And A&M didn't, when the season started, they didn't necessarily expect to be here, but they went on an incredible run and essentially slugged their way to Omaha in 2022. Season started, A&M was a top 10 team. They were top 10 team all year long. They got all the way up to number 1. It felt almost as if the 12th man expected to be here from opening day on. So there's been a ton of Maroon around town, right? They didn't start playing here until Saturday, but we got here Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, you saw a bunch of Aggies around Omaha. And, yeah, I think that if you can look at the Jell-O shot board and see that A&M's got quite the contingency here and quite the showing. So it's definitely been a tinted Maroon showing in Omaha, Nebraska.
How many Jell-O shots have you bought? And have you tried to expense them?
I've bought none. How many have I consumed? A couple. It's greater than 0.
Okay.
Hey, couple things. I did not hear Schloss say this on the SEC network, but he gave some encouraging news on Jace Lavalette. What are you hearing about Jace? What's the latest on your end?
So I haven't heard anything since yesterday's press conference. We spoke to Coach Schlossnagel around 1 p.m. Yesterday afternoon, and it was encouraging in that there was no update and nothing new to report. They said that they were going to try and stretch him out, maybe not work him out too much at practice yesterday and see how they go. They think they've got they know they've got a really good medical staff and team doctors and people and personnel with them in Omaha that will give him the best opportunity to go later tonight and potentially tomorrow and into the weekend should A&M get there.
Okay, if he doesn't play, we had somebody call and ask us this: has Targac ever played in the outfield? To your knowledge,
has Ryan Targac played the outfield?
And to your knowledge, has he ever played in the outfield?
Yeah, I thought we saw Ryan Targac play the outfield in 2022.
Okay, well, see, I just couldn't recall. We're just trying to think of all the potential options, and someone called and asked about that. I said, has he ever played in the outfield? I don't know. I remember him at DH and second base, but I couldn't recall. So there's just one more possible option, even though I don't expect to see that.
Yeah, and by the way,
I'm gonna try and multitask, Olin, and listen to you guys, but I'm gonna try and go through box scores from the 2022 season to see if I can find something. I'm pretty sure he played second base somewhere.
Yeah.
Or sorry, left field somewhere.
As we talked about the pitching staff, at this point in the season, it is all hands on deck. and there might be a matchup situation with a pitcher that Targo makes sense in that scenario. There might be, because of injury, because of need, that he might have to come out there. The only hesitation I have is making him this big talking point is because he hasn't played much.
Well, just because, we actually had that someone ask about him specifically. I wanted to, Richard knows the team better than I do.
He does. Richard does know the team. Hey, what's the weather situation feeling like? OB this morning around 7:50 was telling me that it looks like it's going to be pretty good for most of the day.
Cloudy.
I haven't looked at the weather yet today. To be completely honest with you, Nuño, the entire reason I'm on this morning is because one of the posters, username Chandlock, gave me a call at 8:31 and woke me up before my 8:35 segment. But from my understanding, is the forecast is good. Yesterday, the weather, at least at the Airbnb, which is a little south of the ballpark, wasn't that bad. So it got crazy for a solid hour and a half, but it blew through pretty quickly.
So
I don't know if they could have played. I don't know if they could have played. I don't know what it was like a few miles north of here.
Huh.
But,
I guess they were just being overly cautious.
So
because they could push it back one day till 11 o'clock, but yesterday they said, okay, we're just gonna cancel it and look for tomorrow.
Tag and Taylor Targos played left field, second base, first base, and DH.
All right.
Utility
He's also
player.
played third too. I just pulled a box score against Kentucky 2 years ago, and he played third base for A&M.
Well, hopefully Lavalette plays, and it's not an issue. If Lavalette plays, Richard, where would you bet that he's starting? Where is he?
I'm saying right field.
If Chase Lavalette is good enough to go, he's batting second, playing right field.
Okay,
that's how I feel about it too. Now, is there a scenario where he could be DH? Absolutely.
Sure. If he can't run, I think that you have to sit him, and you have Sorrell play right, and you take Aiden Shot and put him in left. But I still feel good about Chase Lavalette at about 60%, 75% on 1.5 leg versus Shot on one knee.
Now, why would you move Sorrell to right from left? Is right field a harder position to play than left?
Well, he's got the better arm and can cover more ground.
It was something.
The idea.
Oh, cover more ground. Do you have to cover more ground in right?
I mean, you can shade your center fielder more towards left. Typically you put your better outfielder in right field. Even though you know, and I know what you're saying, the ballpark's more of a cookie cutter, more symmetrical ballpark, so it shouldn't make a difference, but it does, especially with runners going from first to third on singles. You want the guy with the better.
In Little League, they put the worst fielder in right field. That's a fact.
Actually, that was just a topic of conversation earlier today.
No, back in the day, at least on the 12U baseball teams, they put their worst player in right field. I know because I played that position a ton. It's not the same at the collegiate level.
By the way, and this is the last I'll say about it because we got to move on. I'm going to hear from somebody. Ricky Henderson played left field. Conseco played right. End of story. 88 Oakland A's.
Ricky wasn't in center?
Huh?
Ricky wasn't in
play center?
No, Ricky did not play center for the A's. He was left field. Dave Henderson typically played center field for those Oakland A's. And Dave Parker did a little bit and right.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Who did that team play in 1988, though?
I don't remember that particular situation. I remember the
I
year.
Can't believe what I just saw.
Me neither, because I was -9 years old.
I saw it.
Gosh, what an amazing moment. I saw live.
Hey, speaking of, since we're looking back, the passing of Willie Mays.
Oh, maybe the greatest baseball player ever who did it all.
Actually,
22 years, 22 seasons, 24 All-Star games.
When I was a kid, yeah. So we just got to acknowledge that.
Hey, Richard.
Greatest center fielder of all time, and they're going to have later this week, and they're going to play a game at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, which is considered America's oldest professional baseball park. It's actually where Willie Mays got his start with the Birmingham Black Barons, so they're going to do a little nod to the Negro Leagues, and it was going to be essentially an entire celebration of what Willie Mays and all of his contemporaries had provided to the game and America, and now it's going to be a little bit different, a little more somber, and much more feeling like a celebration of life after passing one of the greatest of all time.
Will you stick around for a couple more questions because I didn't get to some of the things I wanted to get to with you?
Sure, I got plenty of time, Nuño. We're just going to sit here and watch baseball starting at 10 a.m.
Well, and did you not know we had a hit or did you oversleep?
Oh, I definitely slept through an alarm.
Okay. Just making sure. All right, we'll be back here in a second because I didn't email you till 5:30 this morning, but I thought we
slept through an alarm.
All right,
for sure.
We'll get back to it. Right now, Heritage Films time. That's Chance McClain's company. Check out the website, yourheritagefilm.com. They make documentaries, documentary films about your families. They do it about your family business, your family ranch, maybe some cool get-togethers that you do with your family. We just had Father's Day. Got to hang out with my pops coming back from Florida. It was great. Maybe some other big-time family event, big birthday. It's what you all do for Thanksgiving as you get all together and you watch some football and hang out. Whatever the eye in the sky you want it to be, Chance McClain can do that for you. He can be the eye of the sky, tell that story, preserve it, to pass it on to the next generation. He is brilliant at being a storyteller. He can also do a Euroflix for you. His son Noah is running that charge right now, and he is fantastic at doing these 20-minute Q&A videos for the kids. And it can be for anybody, but more reserved for the kids because they're benchmark videos, Q&A form with the green screen in the background. They tell a beautiful story, and then you can follow up in a couple years with the next part of the story. Again, that website, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Richard Zane is still on Zoom with us. We only have 3 minutes, Richard, but I wanted to ask you about the transfers on this team, how big of a role they have played. And you can just go across, from Braden to Hayden to Teddy B. Like, they're all over the place on this team. Caden.
Jackson Appel, right?
Jackson
Appel is so underrated. We were actually talking about him the other night. Like what he has been able to do offensively has been fantastic, but he's actually saved a couple of games with his glove and his defensive work this week. So, yeah, I mean, Coach Schlossnagle and this coaching staff always said, they don't want to rely on the transfer portal to build this program and build this roster. They always want to do it through high school recruiting. That would be the lifeblood of the program, and that's it's kind of a cliche that's used in all college recruiting circles. But 2 out of 3 years, teams are in Omaha, and the biggest contributors are transfer portal guys.
I think they've done a really good job of
developing their dudes too.
Of doing both.
Yeah.
Of a balance. It's because Caden
Chase Lavalette, Gavin Grahovic, Ryan Prager. Those are 3 All-Americans, 3 All-SEC contributors that were all homegrown.
And how about the fact that Nolan Kane and Jim Schlossnagle were able to tell those guys, don't worry about the MLB draft. Come to Texas A&M. Let's go win. Because those guys could have gone, especially Jace and especially Gavin Grahovic.
Well, yeah, and Coach Schlossnagle was asked about it again, and it was framed as more of a local question about the high school talent in the Omaha area. But as he often does, he talks about the fastest road to the big leagues is coming through college, and Paul Skeens from LSU right now is the perfect example. He was pitching on this stage 365 days ago, and now he's dominating, carving up major league lineups for the Pirates. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
To get some of the best guys here.
I remember that guy, Vanderbilt, a few years ago, Dan Z. Swanson.
Yeah.
Isn't he a really good major league player now?
Shortstop for the Cubbies.
Yeah.
That same team had Walker Buehler, who gave up like 6 runs yesterday in 2 innings for the Dodgers, but he's been pretty good in his career as well. Carson Fulmer. Yeah, they've had a ton of talent at Vanderbilt.
Ricardo, great work, man. Thanks very much for your work.
Thank you. Bronny's right over here. He's coming up shortly. He's getting ready. I can see him. He's trying to
Can
wake
he do
up.
the lay down thing you did the other day?
They want to know if you'll do the lay down thing. He says no buffoonery. No buffoonery. We're all pros here.
Bronny and spandex on the
I
couch.
like a happy Richard Zane.
I did too.
He's angry so often, but he's happy today.
Thank you, Richard. All right, when we come back on, my voice cracked. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Ryan Brauninger. OB, great job, buddy.
Thanks.
By the way, Sutton says, been here since Friday, seen all the games, stay until we have a natty, go to DJ's, great water park, zoo is amazing, Durham Museum is awesome.
I doubt Sutton's had any Jell-O shots.
No. Sutton and I could go to DJ's together and just look like those guys like, why are they here?
Yeah. Sutton doesn't strike me as a Jell-O shot guy.
I bet you he went to the gym already.
Probably so.
That I can guarantee. All right, we'll come back. It's Ryan Brauninger next on TexAgs. Welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Bronny is shaking his head like I did something wrong. What did I do wrong this time, Bronny?
Well, I thought I was going to have to host a segment.
Was it that long?
Yeah, you slid in real late.
Hey, so like Cade yelled at me, we're coming back. And I said out loud, we come back when I want to come back. All right? And I decided to come back now.
Your show.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Big tough guy. Your show. No, I like having you back in studio. It feels more normal than having you on the road.
But did the quality suffer? That's what matters to me.
Well, the quality, whenever you've got Olin in live video, that kind of distorts the quality of anything.
Hey, I really don't want to spend too much time on this topic, okay? I really don't. But I got to ask you, did you hear our debate earlier in the show? Not debate, our conversation.
I did not. I've been up. So, I've been gone for over a week now, and I've got 12 baseball games being played for the team that I coach, and I've got somebody filling in for me. So I've been up all morning, like prepping every inning that my team's about to play this weekend because I won't be there.
Well, look, quick, all right? Right field or left field? Who's typically the better fielder?
Typically the better fielder?
Yeah.
Man, you're splitting hairs. I'd say right field.
Gosh, I'm wrong. Everybody says I'm wrong. I've always thought that left field was the better fielder.
Well, I mean, at a high level, you don't want any of them to be bad. But
right.
Typically, a right fielder might be a little bit bigger in stature with a better arm and a little bit more sock in the bat.
Okay.
Like Jace probably projects more as a right fielder than left fielder for sure, and maybe even more than a center fielder.
Okay. All right. So I was wrong. I used the 88 A's as my template, and Canseco was in right field.
What is your template?
1988 Oakland A's.
Oh.
Canseco was in right. Ricky Henderson was in left. Ricky Henderson was a better fielder. Canseco had a better arm.
Yeah. I'm glad that you went and plucked a team from 35 years ago, 36 years ago as your example. There hasn't been any baseball played since then. So
that's
like the 88 Oakland A's.
Look, I have said some listener once, because I could go through the whole lineup of the Oakland A's. Like, I don't remember anything from last year, okay? But I can tell you specifics about the 88, 89, and 90 Oakland A's, because it's just how my brain works.
Bash Brothers.
Carney Lansford, third base. Mike Gallego, second base.
Was that when you were starting to get into your steroid era, so you liked the Oakland A's?
It was my Cuban era, my Bash Brother era, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, let's talk about this team. From a coaching staff perspective, okay? From a player's perspective, what does waiting today, not knowing who your opponent's going to be later on today, what is that? Well, tell me about the nerves, the preparation. What can you share about that?
Yeah, I don't know that it changes much, right? I mean, by this point, you're going to be as prepared as you can be, especially with the other two teams remaining, with it being SEC clubs, and you've gotten to watch so much video in leading up to this week in Omaha, but also since you've been here, you're just getting more and more data, and that's what they'll sit there and do today is continue their scout, continue to gather data about the opposition, and I would think that they're going to pull for about a 20-inning game that's 15-15 after 19 innings, So, no, I mean, I don't know that it does anything for nerves or it changes anything. Obviously, when you start looking at matchups, we talked about it yesterday, like Florida – even though their record doesn't say this, I think Florida is more talented than Kentucky. I think Kentucky is the more complete team. So you're kind of picking your poison. If you get Florida, then you're going to have to beat a team that's got major leaguers on it. Now, they may be young major leaguers outside of Jack Caglione, but they're major leaguers. Whereas in Kentucky, you're going to play an experienced bunch that understands how to play the game together. They have constructed their own brand of baseball, and they're really good at it. They believe in it. And it's an offense in Kentucky that you were able to keep down because you got one of the best pitching performances of all time in Texas A&M history, at least, out of Ryan Brauninger. But that's a Kentucky offense that's pretty potent too, and they know how to pass the bat. They get on base. They bunt. There's some guys, and Ryan Waldschmidt and Ryan Nicholson in there that can run the ball out of the ballpark. So I don't anticipate you be able to hold down that offense as much as you did just the other day whenever you beat them 5-1. So I think there's pros and cons with each matchup. But look, man, we're in the final 5 teams now in Omaha. You're going to be playing in a Final Four game tonight. There's nobody bad left. It's all about matchup and who plays that well that day.
Bronny, you put it on the boards yesterday that you had heard some encouraging news on Jace, and hopefully everybody becomes a subscriber, get that information as soon as Bronny knows stuff. But what can you share about the latest intel on Jace, if there is any intel?
Yeah, so from what we understand, the MRI was pretty good. It wasn't clean, obviously, but it was pretty good in terms of the severity of a hamstring problem. What does that mean? It basically means, how does Jace feel? How does he respond? What can they do treatment-wise between the game the other night and then 6 p.m. tonight to get him ready? And then what percentage is he at if he is ready? I'm not going to say that he's going to play tonight. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm encouraged by what I've heard, but I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, Jace is going to play. If I had to bet one way or the other, if I was betting David Nuño's money, I'd say he's going to try to play. But how effective is he? What can he do if he does play? That remains to be seen. And if he can only hit, then things get really interesting.
So let's kind of go through that scenario, because yesterday when we spoke, I feel like you weren't sure they would move Hayden Schott away from DH, but maybe they would try him in the outfield?
Yeah, so from what I've been able to gather, Hayden Schott, even though he's been on one leg, whenever he does run, the numbers on him running, even though he looks differently because it's like watching a pirate run with a peg leg, the numbers on his catapult system that tracks how fast you run, they're not all that different. Like, it's not a substantial decrease whenever he has to really run. But he hasn't played out there since when? But he does have a career of games playing in the outfield, whereas Gavin Grohovic has none. And I think what they would do is if Jace can only hit, I'm leaning toward where I wasn't yesterday whenever I came on here and talked to you, but now I am leaning toward Schott playing left field. There's no way Schott's bat can come out of the lineup with the way he's swinging it right now. So you may have to get creative, but it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what they do, how they roll out that lineup tonight. And because tonight's not a must win, do you sit Jace and try to give him another day?
Bronny, of the big three sports, we talked about this in the top of the show, this is the best I have felt about a national championship Texas A&M team in the big three sports in my lifetime. The 2020 team I thought should have been in the playoffs. I still feel better about this team. The 2022 baseball team, they were here in this same position with a loss, but I still felt like that was a year early for them. This year, I feel like, even with the injuries, this is the closest. I can taste it. That's how close we are.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, they came into the season with not much expectations, and they just kind of kept winning in unconventional ways, and we kept talking about how it was unsustainable. They weren't getting any pitching, and somehow that's why I liken them so much to Kentucky, because nobody was talking about Kentucky in the preseason, but as they've played more and more games, they've started to mesh, and the sum of their parts is greater than the individuals, and that's what that 2022 A&M team was. So I think when they got to Omaha and started playing, you're like, okay, like anything they can do here is kind of exceeding expectations. Well, this team, they came into the season with these expectations, and they've reached them. Like, we talked all off season, especially December and January in the lead up to this season, about this team can compete for a national championship. And what are they doing? They're competing for a national championship. We talked about how this team could be one of the best in school history. And what have they been? One of the best in school history, regardless of sport. So, yeah, they're on the doorstep, man. And it's just the injuries make me sick to my stomach. Mm-hmm. They really do. Because if this team was firing on all cylinders and was fully healthy, I think they're the odds-on favorite to win the national championship. Can they still do it? Sure, they can. But it's going to take some, like, all-time performances like you got out of Ryan Prager to make up the difference. And you've just lost any type of wiggle room without Braden, Jason, and Shane Sadeo. Like, it's just the fact of the matter. That's what it is. So it's an uphill – I still think it's an uphill battle for them just because of those injuries. But they can absolutely do it. Like, those kids on the team, they believe they can win the national championship regardless of who's healthy and who's not. But it is tough to sit there and look at that lineup, how it was in the 7th and 8th inning, knowing that you've got 2 All-Americans on the bench and then your probable Friday night starter for next year on the shelf as well. It's just if they don't win the national championship, you'll always wonder, right? You'll always wonder what would have happened if they were healthy.
Yeah. So along those lines, you talked about the sum of the parts in 22 being better than the talent. Couldn't you say almost that about this year's, and not better than talent, but couldn't you say that about this year's team too? Because supremely talented too, but some of these parts are also part of the story because of how they win games. It's not just mashing. It's pitching. It's defense. It's backups coming in and having these heroic moments. Like you can say that about this same team, even with all the talent that they have.
Yeah, and those are the things you have to have. Like, in order to be where A&M is, you have to have those things. You're not going to go through a 60, 70-game schedule without bumps and bruises or without adversity. And the Aggies have had their fair share, especially over the last when did Teddy get hurt? LSU? And that's about when all the injury stuff started creeping up and the adversity started creeping up. So they've been through it. They've fought through it. They're a seasoned group. They're older guys right there in the middle of the order. And they've had, to your point, they've had a lot of kids step up when their name's been called. But that's part of building a team. That's part of building a roster, and managing a roster is, what if Caden Kent would have gone into the transfer portal after last year? Right? I mean, he could have, but you keep him in school, right? And the scouting that they do to go to the Ivy League to find Jackson Appel, and then you keep him from professional baseball. Hayden Schott, you keep him from professional baseball. Teddy Burton was third team, second team all-conference Big Ten player as a second baseman at Michigan. He's been your everyday first baseman for the majority of the year. So, it's part of scouting. It's part of managing a roster. That's why Nolan Cain is so stinking valuable to this thing. And it's a great job of managing the ball club by Coach Schlossnagle and his staff. Like Max Weiner, I think the college baseball world is finally starting to figure out what A&M's got in this guy. And in one season, man, like the turnaround, to me, we're wrapping up the athletic calendar for the 2023-2024 season at Texas A&M. Name me a coach that's been better than him. I mean, women's tennis?
Mark Weaver.
Mark Weaver? Okay, yeah, I'll listen to that because he's a national champion. But everybody else on campus, I think if I would go Mark Weaver 1 because of what he won, I'd go Max Weiner 1A because of what he inherited and what he's done with it and brought them to this national stage where they're playing in a Final Four after setting a school record for walks by a large margin last year.
Talking to Ryan Brauninger, who is live in Omaha. Bronny, interesting question for you. Who's been the postseason MVP? And before you answer that, if you even have an answer, the brilliant part of this question is there's an argument to be made for several people, and it's not even talking about your two All-Americans potentially.
No, I think if you're postseason MVP, Hayden Schott, I think Caden Kent has had the more memorable moments, but Hayden Schott has been the most consistent. And remember, he had that awful game against Texas where he was ready to bury himself alive. I talked to him that next day, and he said there was not a person in the world more happy that we won that game than I was, because had we not, I would have been in a really rough spot. And he shakes it off. And he has the rocket against Louisiana that gets caught. And that could have been more frustration, but he just kind of kept going. He hits the homer in that regional final. Then he was the super regional MVP, and he's gotten, he just keeps collecting hits here in Omaha. So I think postseason MVP for me right now would be Hayden Schott, but there's still games left for somebody else to come up, or he can either submit that or somebody else can come take it from him. But Caden Kent, you'd have to put right on his heels.
And you could put Jackson Appel there. You could put Evan Oschenbeck. Sure. I mean, I think that's the beauty of this season, and what they've put together is
Chris Cortez.
There are arguments to be made. Like, actually, here's some data points, right? Like, that's how good they are.
Yeah, and it speaks to the point about roster depth and the overall team, right? If it's hard for you to pick an MVP, that means the team is playing well. And again, what we've seen over the last 4 games is, I would go actually back to 6 games. Go back to that Texas game and the emotion of that. You've seen just the grit, the toughness, the togetherness, all the stuff that you can't measure, all the stuff that doesn't come out in numbers. We've seen that come to the forefront with this team, which has been one of the cooler things about this postseason run is getting to see these kids compete and fight with their backs against the wall and get punched in the gut by adversity. And they've got to recover. And, it wobbled them in that Oregon series for a few innings. But they gathered themselves, straightened up, and they went back and they started swinging back. And that has been the coolest part. And you have to have those things. It can't just be talent. Talent only take you so far, and it has a ceiling. But talent plus guts plus togetherness, all that other stuff, that's whenever you start talking about having a special team. And that's one of the things that we were saying. Remember, in February and March, we kept saying, oh, it's early. They haven't lost a game. It's early. We still don't know. We still don't know. What does all this mean? And I would say, we still need to know about the character of this club. Not that I had doubts, but you have to see it play out over the course of the season. You have to see the character come out in these guys on the field and the clubhouse and the dugout. You've got to go through adversity. You got to watch them play so they can start building their brand of baseball where it's not just the talent, it's how we play, how we interact with our coaches and teammates, how we interact with the fan base. Like all of that is part of this. And this team has checked every box in those arenas.
Bronny, unless Florida State beats Tennessee twice in a row, A&M potentially is going to finish the season undefeated in non-conference games, which is, I think, we'll see. They got to play them if Florida State were able to overcome. But I think that's all part of the story. Like these things that we've seen all year long, how well they've done against SEC teams, how they did in these non-conference games, they're all part of the story.
Yeah, and they're the undefeated against non-conference teams. That's wild. When you play that many, and they've played some quality ones from power conferences. You go back to the regular season, them not losing a midweek is crazy. Mm-hmm. They don't lose to another team from the state of Texas. That's crazy. And then the overall totality of it is you may play an entire season, 60-plus games, and not lose to a team outside of the SEC. Again, we're going to sit down probably next week after this is all over and look at, what did this mean from a historical perspective. But all of these data points continue to indicate that this is one of the best athletic teams we've seen in Texas A&M school history.
Let's do this. Let's hit a break. Come back with more with Bronny. He's in Omaha. Got some more questions for him to get into. If you have any for Bronny, you can send it in at 979-693-1150. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve. You can find them on Highway 6 if you're coming from Houston. On your left-hand side as you pass Navasota, look. If you're going from Kyle Field on Wellborn, look on your left-hand side as you're going towards Navasota. It's a cool place to go hang out. Their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that. So you can go there. You can go jump rope. You can go hiking. You can go biking. You can go fishing. You can do it all. All the great outdoor activities you love to do, you can do it there and connect with your family, connect with nature. That's why they created Milliken Reserve, a sanctuary, 30 miles of trails, homes, 2,600 acres of open space, an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape. They got all the beautiful animals you can imagine, from the white-tailed deer to the songbirds to the rabbits to the turtles. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing the legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're coming back to that pristine countryside place. An enduring resource and place to come together to relax, to reflect, to explore, and to discover. The website is millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. Go check it out. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We go back to the hotline. Ryan Brauninger is live in Omaha. Bronny, yesterday on the video you did with Lucci and Zane, you mentioned every win from here on out will be the biggest win in program history. And I just love the way that sounds. And one of the things we talked about earlier in the show is I've become right now Nuño as opposed to next year Nuño, because right now it's here. It's possible for all these things we've been talking about.
Yeah, and kind of making you rethink your whole shtick there. But no, yeah, right on the doorstep, right? And even the 2022 team wasn't this close because they got to this point with a loss to their name. And so they went out 2 games before this team can go out. So this will be the deepest run in school history. And one more win, and you're playing for the big trophy. And that's all you can ask for. You know, if you get to that final series, I think, you know, as close as it is, you want to win it. It's going to come down to winning one more probably SEC series on the season. Once you've won 7 out of 10 in the regular season, you've essentially won another one here in Omaha, like an all SEC regional. One more win, you'd win an all SEC regional, and then you'd probably have an SEC super regional against Tennessee in the final. So, yeah, you're right on the doorstep, man. This is the closest this school's been since 1939. Well, I guess what was that, 1975 had a football season where they lost to Arkansas late. That's before my time. I don't want to keep talking and mess those facts up, but I know it was in the 70s, and they were had a chance to play for a national championship back then with the way it worked, and they lost in the final week of the season and didn't get to do so. So had they won that game against Arkansas, they would have played for a national championship in that football season. But for all intents and purposes, this is the deepest run that any of the big 3 have made since 1939. And it's been super cool to watch. And they've done it 2 out of 3 years, man. And again, I've talked a lot about it this week, like the realization of you don't have to talk about the potential of this baseball program anymore. And really, I think you can extrapolate that out amongst to all sports, like especially the big 3. A&M can do these things, and they can certainly do it in baseball. I think they can do it in football. Basketball is going to be a little bit tougher, but amongst football and baseball, this can be done. I don't think it's ever going to be the expectation. It's just so hard to do. It's so stinking hard to get here and then win games, and you're seeing kind of just what happens with the season due to the injuries, and you don't get to pick and choose when those happen or who they happen to. But the ceiling is being seen now, right? Like the ceiling of this program is a national championship, and you can see it from where you're sitting right now. And they've done that in 2 out of the last 3 years. So I think the program's on a whole nother level. It's almost recruiting itself now, and it helps whenever you've got coaches on staff that are such good recruiters. But now they're walking in with the A&M logo, whether it be in the transfer portal or to these summer, travel ball tournaments, and just the logo itself is starting to carry some more weight.
Brian, there's some transfer portal guy who's thinking about going in the portal that is in the portal that's watching this team right now, and he's thinking to himself, I want to be a part of that. That's where I need to go. I want to play for that program.
Yeah, and they're also looking at it and they're going, wow, look at what they've done with all their transfer portal guys. Even a player that was as sensational as Braden Montgomery was at Stanford has come to Texas A&M, and his numbers have gotten better. They got better at A&M, and he was already a first-team all-conference player freshman of the year at Stanford, and he had a really good baseball conference. And he comes to the best baseball conference in America, and he got better. So, yeah, they're doing that not with just guys like Braden Montgomery. They're doing it with the Ivy League older guys. They're doing it with guys that come from UTSA in Hawaii. They're doing it with guys that come from Oregon State and Stanford, and everywhere in between. So, yeah, this is a super attractive program for a lot of reasons. But for the transfer portal guys that are looking to either increase their exposure or maybe have a change of scenery, no matter what it is, they want to go to a place that they're going to be productive at and they can continue to develop. And that's what, especially with the hitters that, over these 3 years that we've seen, Michael Early has just turned already good players into great college players when they've come to Texas A&M. And I think we're going to see that as well with what Max Weiner is going to do on the pitching side.
Bronny, one of the beauties of this deep kind of run is it lets us tell stories, right? So we were able to talk a lot about Hayden Schott a little bit ago. We mentioned briefly Jackson Appel, but let's talk about his importance to this team. And it goes multiple ways.
Jackson Appel?
Yeah.
Might be the team. Like when you say most valuable player, like most valuable, probably Jackson Appel. Now I know that term gets kind of misconstrued to best player, but most valuable, it's kind of like Troy Clonch was on that 2022 team. Like Jackson Appel's value to this ball club has been sensational. It's been insane. And he's catching every day through injury, 3 significant injuries, right? Like we'll get into it once the season's over. I'll tell everybody kind of what Jackson's gone through, but you never know it. He continues to produce at a high level. He's caught a pitching staff that has been as good as this one. Doesn't happen without a guy behind the plate catching the ball every time they throw it. Being a guy that they really trust and can steal strikes and can block the baseball and make the great play, but also make the simple play. Jackson's super trustworthy, man. Like he's super reliable and super trustworthy. You know what you're going to get when you come to the ballpark. And from a coaching perspective, that might be the number one quality you're looking for or want in a player. Sure, you want to see a guy like Jace Lavalette, and you want to recruit guys like he and Gavin Grahovic that can hit the ball 115, 120 miles an hour. But you also have to have the guy that is going to show up every day and you know exactly what he's going to be. Exactly. That's what Jackson Appel has been since the day he arrived.
Bronny, in about 30 minutes, Florida, Kentucky will get started. Which way are you leaning between those two?
Well, I haven't really looked at too much for the Kentucky side who they're going to pitch. I know that Florida's going with Pierce Coppola, and Pierce Coppola looks like Randy Johnson. Like he looks like that's kind of his frame. Super talented, but has been battling injuries his whole career. He just like every one of these Florida pitchers, the upside is crazy. Like he's major league upside, no question. But what shows up today on the mound may not be close to that upside or close to his pitching ceiling. Whereas Kentucky, like I said earlier, they've been the more consistent team throughout the course of the year. Like we were just talking about Jackson Appel, you know what you're going to get. You've known what you're going to get with Kentucky since about mid-March.
Yep.
And Florida has been a coin flip every day they go out there. So on their day, Florida is the better team. But and that's what we're doing today. We're playing one game. We're not playing a series. If it was a series, I would take Kentucky. They won the series in Gainesville toward the end of the season. But in a one game, I don't know, man. I'm leaning toward the more talented club, and that's Florida.
Which way are you leaning for the starting pitcher for A&M today? I mean, because it's so close, do you think they know right now who it's going to be, or do you think they're still waiting on the matchup?
They're going to wait. Yeah, they're going to wait and see who they play. I think it could be Brad Rudis. Like that'd be a guy that, regardless of who you play, it could be Brad because they haven't seen him. And if it's Lampkin, Florida just saw him. And if it's Lampkin against Kentucky, they just saw a left-hander that's not the same but similar. I mean, Ryan Prager's stuff and Justin Lampkin's stuff are very different from an analytic standpoint, but it is a left-handed starter that's going to be 88 to 93. So it's similar. It profiles similar, but not the same. I just wonder if the staff would just want to do something different, even if it's Kentucky, and go with somebody like Brad that's going to give them a different look.
That is Ryan Brauninger. Bronny, great work, man. We'll catch up with you here, I guess, tomorrow on the program.
All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, man. Ryan Brauninger doing great work here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, we're talking Rollo Insurance. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish your insurance goals. They are the best. Jason, Jackson, the whole crew, the BJ, the entire crew at Rollo Insurance, Keith, Morgan. They're a family. Family first, right? That's God, family, and country. That's what they do there at Rollo Insurance. A big part of their motto and making sure that they take care of people all around Texas, all around the country. But their headquarters is right here in College Station on Highway 6, and you see them at all the big events. You see them at the grocery store. They are part of this community because they love this community. They love Aggie athletics. But the thing that they love doing most is providing you the service and the value that you need. 53 offices in the great state of Texas, but you can find them all around the country. Their headquarters on Highway 6 right here in College Station. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO. That is 888-44-ROLLO. Go to rolloinsurance.com. Welcome back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is not the go hour. It is the now hour. And hopefully now A&M can win and move on to the finals of the College World Series. And hopefully a bunch of Aggies find their way to Omaha. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think all of you are. 979-693-1150. We have a short little open segment here before we go to Mario Satania, who's going to be in studio. Same with Connor Schulman. Do a little track conversation here for a few minutes to close out the 9 o'clock hour, then back on the baseball track in the 10 o'clock hour. Little recruiting country with Jason Howell. He might have a baseball take or two, but we're definitely going to get into some recruiting. Had some big news over the weekend. Kendall Rogers to close out the 10 o'clock hour. So lots to get into. Again, if you want to be a part of that conversation, you can call us, you can text us. 979-693-1150 is the phone number. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein is there. Carson, I know we got some text messages and some thoughts.
We do. So I wanted to ask you this one from Blake. He says, if we do not use Lampkin today and we win, wouldn't it make more sense to pitch Lampkin Saturday and Prager Sunday? Better rested, and we can probably use each once.
I mean, sure. Sure, I could see that being a scenario. I think it's all going to be dependent on matchup, and I don't know how they look at the matchup with potentially Tennessee or Florida State. More than likely Tennessee, right? They're in the driver's seat just as A&M is. How they see that, how that's going to play out. I could see that, sure. Now, in a College World Series setting, I think you want to go with your ace in game one. I think you do. I think you want to get that first game. And now you have 2 games to figure it out, as opposed to the reverse of, not sure what you do in game one. You know what you're going to get for the most part, 97.3% of the time from Ryan Prager, right? You don't know what you're going to – can you bank on back-to-back starting of a series, brilliant performances from Justin Lampkin? I don't know. And I'm not saying that Prager's going to have another no-hitter 6 2/3. What I am saying, though, is I like that starting with him. But again, what the hell do I know? I was arguing with the right field and left field earlier, right? He's got a plan, and I don't even know if his brain allows him to go there yet until he takes care of business. They have to beat Florida or Kentucky later today. And if they don't get it done today, they have to do it tomorrow, right? So take care of that, and we'll see what arms are rested, and because it is all hands on deck at this point, right? And you worry about the College World Series later. Go back to Carson.
We got one from Ross from east of East Texas. Says, also, don't overthink the Jace and Shot DH thing. Shot is taking right now. Don't move him. If Jace can still hit, then make him pinch hit later in the game. Then you can platoon Bell and Targach at second base.
Potentially. I like to decode things, right? And if Schloss says if he can play, he's going to play, is that a little gamesmanship to kind of, whoever they end up playing against? If Jace Lavalette, who got you near 30 home runs, who's an All-American, who's going to be a top 5 pick in the MLB draft next year, if that guy can go, he goes. Now, the question does become, and every situation is different, obviously, what kind of conversations is the medical staff having with Jace? Listen, man, I know the athletic instinct is to go 150 miles an hour when you hit the ball when you're in the outfield. You're going to have to jog a little bit. You're going to have to just we do not want to stress it. Or, hey, dude, if you're playing 100 miles an hour. I think, and I've had hamstring injuries. Of course, I'm an old man. It's different. But I've had hamstring injuries where I didn't even do that much explosive movement. It's just kind of the quick reaction to it. And that can cause some issues. But at his age, and if the MRI, as Bronny kind of alluded to, wasn't as severe as it could have been, it did show something, then maybe you're like, dude, just don't sprint. We're not, don't steal some bases. We're not going to, let's just risk versus reward. Risk versus reward. Carson, one more.
I wanted to get into some little bit of softball. We have incoming freshmen Taylor Brown, Sydney Lessentine, and Kate Munnerlin all earned Gatorade Softball Player of the Year honors in their respective states. Taylor Brown being Missouri, Sydney Lessentine being New Mexico, and Kate Munnerlin being California. So it looks like softball as well as baseball is still on the come up.
On the come up, look, when we do our preseason kickoff, hopefully everybody's picked up some tickets for that. When we do our preseason kickoff, there's a lot of coaches we have to honor, right? A boatload. And Trisha Ford is one of them. Schloss, Mark Weaver, Brian Corton, Coach Henry and his staff. And we're going to talk a little track when we come back. there's a lot of greatness across the street. The potential greatness for Coach Elko. It's going to be fun. If you haven't gotten your tickets, go to texags.com/kickoff. We'll hit a break. We'll talk to Connor Schulman and Mario Satania here on TexAgs Radio for a quick track spotlight. We'll get into that here in a moment. But right now, let's talk Hush and Whisper. I think I told you guys a couple weeks back, they won some awards already because they're awesome. Just 6 months into opening their doors, they've been recognized for exemplary craftsmanship the ADI gave them. They outperformed all their competition, and that's what you can get. And when you're looking for your whiskey and your original vodka and original gin, you don't have to go far. You can go right here to Hush and Whisper, where it's an innovative distillery cocktail lounge that they want to defy convention and distill true grain to glass spirits. And you can find them in downtown Bryan. I know a bunch of you went this past weekend for the games, right? And you probably went for the soccer games as well and the concert, and you had a great time there. If you haven't been, when you're visiting this area, you gotta go. You just gotta go hang out there. It's just a cool vibe. You'll love it. And then you can learn too. It's like, watching a learning show, and also being at the night at the Roxbury. Well, maybe that's a little bit too high music, but it's a cool, classy vibe to it. You'll love it. You'll love. They source only the finest local ingredients, committed to the highest quality of production there. You can have a reserve, a tour, a tasting, just a tasting, book an event, meetings, celebrations, team building. Come in for a mocktail or a cocktail, buy a bottle, experience it at home. Gin, vodka, white whiskey bottles are for sale. They're open Thursday and Friday from 2 to 11 o'clock. 2 to 11 o'clock. Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. 219 North Main Street there at the Verisco Building in downtown Bryan. Check out the website, hushandwhisper.com. That's hushandwhisper.com. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Now it's time for our track program spotlight, brought to you by Schulte Roofing. It is Schulte Roofing is an award-winning roofing company that provides industrial, commercial, residential services to Belleville, Brenham, Bryan, College Station, Conroe, Montgomery, San Antonio, the Woodlands, and surrounding counties. They are the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee, the industry's absolute best roofing system, roof installation, warranty, and 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back. And with that, we've got Coach Mario Satania in studio. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you doing? Great to be here.
Great to have you again. And Connor Schulman, who, well, you could tell the people, what's the first thing I said to you when you walked in the studio?
Oh, that I got robbed.
I said screwed. He got screwed. Yeah. Can we talk about that for a quick moment? Just your emotions this last month, because I'm sure they've been all over the place, and we can kind of reset what happened. So take us through what happened and why you weren't able to go to the championships.
Well, so at NCAA West Regionals, hurdler next to me, he hit his second or third hurdle. When he went down, he fell into my lane, landed on the back of my leg, hit me, I hit my hurdle, I went down. Yeah, so because of that, I didn't get to advance to NCAAs. They didn't let me rerun or get a chance to earn that spot, and yeah, kind of just got screwed.
Coach Satania, let the world know, he was on his way.
No, I mean, obviously he proved himself last year and again at the indoor NCAA championships, and it was very unfortunate. We did everything that we could. Our sports supervisor, Jonathan Wallace, to Coach Henry, long after the meet was completed, because we had about a week to get ready for the NCAA finals. And it was very, very unfortunate to see that, and obviously had significant team ramifications for us, ending up 5th place, still having a chance to win with the group that we had. But, I mean, you want to have a full arsenal when you go to that national meet. So
that week that you were waiting, Eric Casares works with us, and he was updating me daily. He's like, I don't know, man. So did you think they were going to see the light?
Yeah, I mean, so if you look back, in 2019, a similar situation happened to the 400 hurdles. A guy got hit, got bumped, and they took him to the national meet as a 25th person. They just brought an extra, because at the national meet they run 8 in each heat, so they just threw him in lane 9. And so I was kind of hoping that was going to happen. Or, I mean, I told him I would run the day before NCAAs, and I'll earn the spot. I don't care how I got to get it done. I thought the NCAA would make it right, and they didn't.
They did not. So what year are you?
This was my 5th year.
That's it. That was the other thing too. We were explaining to the people, this is a senior, proven senior, but that's his last race, So now he's got a little redemption, obviously heading to the Olympic trials along with the rest of our athletes that qualified. So, kind of now getting ready to move on to that next chapter.
So let me ask you about that, because certain sports, being angry and redemption and I'm going to show them, is a good thing. Certain sports are not. In your world, is this fueling every practice, every step that you take?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll probably have to dial it back in the race itself. When I get too amped up, I start to hit hurdles and make mistakes. But in practice and weight room, it's definitely good fuel.
How does that work? When you're coaching mindset, dude, take a step back, follow the process, follow your steps.
Well, whenever you're going over 10 barriers full speed, you want to have that aggressive nature or mode, but at the same time, it can't be an overdrive, but Coach Kurt Henry, who coaches Connor directly, does a great job along with the rest of the sprint and hurdle group and stuff. But no, you want to have that drive, that passion. I think this is going to be a different step now for everybody that's competing at the Olympic trials, because you're going up against some of the best athletes in the world, not just in the NCAA. For Connor, I think this is going to be great because he has aspirations to run on the professional level. So it gives him an opportunity to kind of see, okay, now going head to head with some of the best people in the world. And also, too, for a lot of the managers, agents, shoe companies, sponsorship, all of that, they're going to be taking note, okay, how are people going to transition now from college racing to, this professional level?
So 11 A&M athletes are headed this year to the USA Olympic trials. And you were I'm going to the Pacific Northwest around the same time, and I'm complaining about driving to Bush Airport, an hour and a half, 4-hour flight. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes. Going to Eugene, Oregon, once you're there and you can get past all the pollen and stuff,
so bad.
It is. They do a nice job, but it's not easy to travel in there. And so we've been going out in various groups and stuff, depending on whenever, people are competing, getting out there a few days early. But really excited, to really see. This is a tough team to make for the Olympic team. Getting to the trials is a feat within itself, but to be in the top 3 is very, very hard to make the U.S. team. I feel like, you look at Sam Whitmarsh has the Olympic standard. If he puts himself in a good position, I think he has a great chance. Obviously, Ahmad in the 400. 400's a little different compared to some of the other individual events because if he makes the final, now all of a sudden you're in the relay pool for either the 4x4 relay or for the mixed relay. So if he does what he's capable of doing, I think some great things are going to happen for him.
And on the women's side, you have Tamara Chapman,
Yes.
Jermisha Arnold, Covington, Dixon, Killebrew, Fairchild. So you got 6 on the women's side.
Yeah, so Tamara's she'll start on Sunday and Monday, completing the heptathlon and stuff and coming off obviously winning the NCAA championship. She again has a great chance to be in the top 3, has to hit the Olympic standard, and then there's also a point system. But somebody that's now exhausted their eligibility, kind of like Connor, you go there, you have a good showing, it bodes well for you to get, shoe sponsorships and things of that sort.
And then you have a few athletes going to Jamaica and Canadian trials, correct?
Correct. We have one of our pole vaulters heading up to the Heather Abity will go to the Canadian trials. And then I'll be flying back from Oregon to pick up the 3 Jamaicans that we have. So we have Kamar Farguson in the 800. He's also in the Jamaican 4x4 relay pool because of, obviously the success that they've had this year. And then Abigail Martin in the discus, and then Lamar Diston in the high jump. And Lamar has already hit the Olympic standard. So for a smaller country like Jamaica, she's already guaranteed to be in Paris. She just has to go down there and show fitness.
Yeah. Connor, for you, there's no off season, right? So how do you prepare your body to be at its best, hopefully for the NCAA championships? Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And now for these Olympic trials and hopefully beyond.
Well, for me, I just do what Coach tells me to. I mean, Coach Kurt, he knew that the goal was to keep running into June and then hopefully August, and so that's kind of what we planned for, I think. It was a little bit easier. I did have some downtime in the fall, so I started a little bit later just to stay a little bit more fresh, and also I feel really good right now. So just kind of planning and seeing when the training starts, when I get in spikes, stuff like that.
Coach Satania, considering the good season that it was, and I don't want to call it a bounce back, but it was a step again back to where we're used to seeing Texas A&M track and field, and how many athletes are going to Eugene. Just talk about the year it was.
No, we had a great year. I mean, we're obviously trending in the right direction. A lot of programs would have been very happy being 5th place, but I mean, we literally lost the national meet. I guess you don't really want to say you believe in luck, but there were things that could have fallen a different direction, and they didn't fall for us. When we were there at the NCAA's, you have one of the best steeplechasers. He had to withdraw because of an injury. Ahmad gets disqualified of the 400. We still have yet to see that on any video for stepping on the lane line. Or that bumps us to 3rd right there alone. You're coming home at least with a team trophy. But you things with Connor, stuff like that. On the women's side, we had a great team. I think the toughest part right now, and I've thought about this, and what going back into the fall, start of next year, coaches give you the blueprint, and we can talk till we're blue in the face, but until a team wins, they don't know how to win.
Yeah.
And that's where you can't get to the big meets, and things are going to work themselves out, but you just don't want to fall apart in the big moment. So that has to be ingrained from day one.
Well, I think it has been, and I think the future's bright, and I'm rooting for you, man. I know all the Aggies are, so thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Coach Satania, thank you as always, buddy.
Absolutely, thank you.
When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, Jason Howell, Recruiting Country. We'll finish it up with some baseball. It's TexAgs Radio. Welcome back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It's time for Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area. You got the original 24-hour ER in South College Station, William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with the ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online, caprockhealthsystem.com. Jason Howell's in the house. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man.
2 weeks in a row?
I'm telling you, hey, there might be a third one coming up.
What?
Whoa, yeah. I'm going to have to buy a summer home here in College Station for sure.
Yeah, buddy. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
Hey, so we're going to do a lot of recruiting.
Yeah.
But for a moment, you kind of getting intoxicated by this baseball thing happening?
Oh, absolutely.
It's fun,
well,
right?
Here's the sad thing. I mean, I know Mike Elko. He's a great baseball fan. All his football camps are right in the middle of the baseball game.
Yep.
I'm telling you, man. It's but there's been a lot of baseball talk out there at the camps,
and they go to the games.
Well, I'm not talking about all the coaches. I'm talking security, like some of the campers. Last week. I think it was the 9th when they had the super regional in, and it was the big game. Oregon back and forth. You get the buzz from Bluebell.
Isn't that great?
I didn't want to. Well, not that I didn't want to go outside. I couldn't focus outside because that was the sound. That was they didn't have music playing. It was just Bluebell coming across the street, and everybody was like, some of the parents were like, "What is that? What's going on?" It was like, dude, they win this. It's Omaha town, man.
Let's talk about, from a perspective, A&M in College Station in Bryan, in the middle of all these conversations, from the soccer match that had 85,000 to the George Strait concert with 110, to the super regional, to our baseball team right now being one of the final 4 teams left. They're going to be one of the final 4 teams left at the very least, and hopefully they win a national championship. It has been a PR campaign success for this community.
Oh, absolutely. And it's these visits and these kids coming in town. There was one guy, he was from California. I didn't even know who George Strait is. He's going to be a junior next year. He's, I don't know who George Strait is, but I learned real quick. But it's, you see the, the excitement around town, and then you see the articles coming out about 110,000 for the concert.
Breaking the record.
Yeah, exactly. Record-setting stuff. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Absolutely not. It's been an amazing time.
So how did the official visits go this past weekend?
Really well. You picked up a pretty big commit
I
there.
Heard.
Yeah.
Kiati
Armstrong.
Huh. He's a pretty big deal, I hear.
Yeah. Top 10 player in the state.
Yeah.
Big win over.
And he's an athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he's listed as tight end, but he can play multiple.
We list him as an athlete just because, he walks in the room and you're like, okay,
this dude can play football.
Well, where do you want to play? Oh, yeah, you're there. All right, we got a spot just for you, sir. 6'6", 250 pounds right now. I saw him at a 7-on-7, just running around, running routes, catching the ball one-handed.
Yep.
He is a highly skilled, just phenomenal athlete, and he's just scratching the surface.
Is he?
And it's not a knock on the coaching out there, because Jasper, man, they do some things out there at that program. Don't get it wrong. They're doing some big things out there, but especially at the smaller schools, and when you have an athlete like that, I mean, you want to play some? Get out there. You can help us at defensive end. You can help us at tight end. We can move you around. We can do
right.
And so sometimes you miss out on some of that specialized coaching, because you are asked to do so much that you don't get to necessarily focus. But yeah, he's a guy that he's gonna really be an asset to this class. He sends a message. When he committed. That's a big win over Texas, LSU.
Yeah.
Everybody evaluated this guy early, knew they wanted him early, and they stayed on him, and they will stay on him. He's going to be a guy you're going to have to hold on to. But absolutely, huge win. Send a message across the state and country.
So compare him to maybe Donovan Green a couple years ago, or maybe because he's bigger, right? Like Donovan Green, 6'4", 240-ish. This guy's bigger. What are their games similar? Kind of take me through that.
I don't know if I think Donovan was probably a more refined pure receiver tight end type. If you want a comparison, it's I've seen some people throw out Martellus type stuff. And I'm like, no, I mean,
different.
They're different. He's a different kind of guy.
Is he more old school tight end, or
well, if he's just he's a guy that can do everything out there. He has the potential to be a blocker. You watch his tape, man. He is killing folks as a blocker. He's lining up, as a wing. He's lining up split out at receiver. He's lining up in line. He can do it all. And it's just at his size, he is such a unique specimen. And he, his ceiling is truly high. His ceiling is like a Martellus Bennett. He could end up developing and being that guy. But you don't want to put that label on somebody so early. But as far as just his style of play, I mean, he gets after it.
He's huge, man.
He's an all-around tight end. Absolutely.
He wasn't the only tight end in town, right?
No.
So tell me a little bit more about those guys.
So you had Nick Townsend, who was actually back last night with the Caney. They were in town for Texas A&M's 7-on-7 camp.
Okay.
So he was in town with his teammates, and they made a nice little run. He is 6'4", 225, 230, and just a phenomenal athlete. A guy that he was recruited on defense. And another guy like Chiatti, who brings a different skill set to the position. He's a guy who can be an H-back. You watch his tape on offense, they're sending him in motion, they're asking him to do a lot of stuff. He runs, he runs routes like a receiver, a phenomenal pass catcher. And with Coach Klein's offense, that's a guy that you can envision them moving him around and using him in so many different spots. And and that's what we talk. Like, he and Chiatti don't necessarily conflict with each other. They would actually
different styles.
Yeah, they would complement each other really well, and especially in an offense that Colin Klein's developing. Yeah, he's always loved the tight end, and I think this is those are a couple. And again, Nick is listed as an athlete for very much the same reasons, because a lot of people recruit him at linebacker. He could play defensive end. And then you watch his offensive tape, and it's like, let's keep the ball in his hand.
Yeah, give him the ball. So, who could be next? Is there somebody that you're like, you know what? If I were to put my money on one of these three guys, or is there somebody else
from last weekend specifically?
Sure.
I don't know. I hesitate with guys like DJ Sanders, or there were some, Nick Townsend is a guy that it sounded like things really went well with, and Kate actually caught up with him yesterday.
Okay.
So we got a report on that, and there are a few guys that I could see it working out with. And
keep that close to the vest right now.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where there's been a lot of positive momentum coming off these first few visits.
So is it because I'm a reporter, I got to follow up, right? Possible that we do see something though here.
I think you're going to see things start to pop off here at the end of June, early July, or throughout July.
The next 4 to 5 weeks, we're going to see some movement.
And this is kind of what I've thought coming into this month. Like that first weekend, you had a bunch of high priority guys in town. You had those 3 tackles. You had all these priority guys picked coming in, and but they also had other big visits that they wanted to take, and most of them had said, I'm going to do June, July, maybe even August, whatever, coming into that weekend. And it's kind of where we're at. One big one coming in this week, who's already got a date set, is Noah McHale.
Okay.
Big linebacker out of California, stud recruit, a guy that A&M is very much in the mix for. And I think they may even hold the edge there coming into the weekend. So we'll see. But he's got a June 30th decision date already in his mind. And I could easily see that one going A&M's way, especially if this weekend goes very well.
We also had a few commits in town this past weekend.
Yeah, you had Josh Moses.
Yep.
You had Tyler Thomas, both on the O-line, and then you had Landon Rink in there. So, Landon came in, I want to say, I don't know what his power clean. He set the power clean record.
Yeah.
Coming before, like minutes before he hopped in the car. It's like, we're going to throw this up, set the record. Peace out. I'm going to College Station.
We'll leave it a minute. Hold on, let me get this in real quick. I think I can break it.
Exactly. Yeah. So he popped off that record, jumped in the car, and then did some work this weekend. He's one of A&M's big vocal recruiters, and he doesn't even have to be.
Right.
But he's a guy that a lot of those guys really respect, and they had They had not only DJ Sanders, they had Zion Williams, they had a few guys in this weekend on the defensive front that is good to have a guy like him positionally there to help, and then you had a number of other guys there. So, but all three of those guys really did some work. And they just tell these recruits, basically, this is why I picked it.
Right.
This is what I see the direction of the program. I did an interview with Kalik Lockett.
Yeah.
He visited that first weekend. He goes, Tiger and Hassan and those guys, they were just like, this is what's happening here. Get on board, man. This is the direction of the train, and we think you'd really help it along, if you want to be a part of it.
So one of the notes you sent me was these camps are a little bit smaller that are happening now, a little more intimate.
Well, like the June 9th camp was big. I mean, there was a ton of talent. It was about as stacked as I've seen. The first couple camps, they had the mega camp on Monday night, and then yesterday they had the big man camp and the 7-on-7 camp going at the same time. So it was action packed from 11 o'clock till 7.
Sure.
So they were getting after it. But yeah, it's a little different, setup. The mega camp was a little bit smaller than the June 9th camp, and kind of more like the June 1st camp that they had to kick things off. And we'll see what happens on the 20th, but I anticipate it to be a pretty solid camp list. But they're really well run. They're efficient with the time, and yesterday the team camp, the team 7-on-7 camp was a really good opportunity for high school coaches to bring their teams in and let them get some work in at the end of the year, and also it was all over at the indoor facility and the practice fields, and that
they get to experience that.
The AC in that indoor
different level.
Let's just say I've had more than one parent or athlete talk about, in comparison to maybe facilities elsewhere, that AC definitely
works.
It's really good.
You might need a parka or a jacket when you're there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it's 120 degrees outside.
Exactly. Yeah.
So offers went out this week. I think you put 3.
Yes. So on
27, 2 27s and a 26 is what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, there was a 26 tight end out of Millard South in Omaha, Nebraska. There was an Omaha, Nebraska field of that camp.
There we go.
On Monday night, and there were about 4 or 5 athletes from Omaha, but a tight end from Millard South. You may have heard of that school because they did have a tight end who was just in town for an official visit in the 25 class out of Millard South, Chase Lofton.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who's also going to be in that tight end room, Isaac Jensen, was also in town, and that relationship with Christian Ellsworth is a big reason why.
Okay.
And so he came down and earned himself an offer, 6'6", 240 pounds, and a heck of an athlete himself. And him and Chase are going to team up. I got a feeling, those could be a few tight ends to watch over the next couple of years.
How about Amari Vickerson, the 27 defensive lineman, and Hakeem Frampton, 27 cornerback?
Yeah, so Frampton actually took home the fastest man award. He played last fall in California. He's moved to Little Rock, where his dad is from, and he is one of the top 27 prospects in the nation. He's already got, I don't know, probably double digit. He may have like 6 or 7 SEC offers already, and he's rising quickly. But a guy with a tremendous skill set. And Vickerson, his dad played in the league. He's starting to see his star rise out there at Cy Ranch. Big-bodied interior defensive lineman, really gets after it, strong hands, and he made short work of a number of offensive linemen at the camp on Monday night.
All right, if you have a question for Jason, why don't you send it to 979-693-1150. You can ask Jason whatever question you have. Recruiting-wise, you can ask him about his personal life, too. He loves sharing stuff on the air. Carson's actually got a couple questions for him. We'll get on the other side of the break. I got a couple of other things as well. Again, it's TexAgs Radio, 979-693-1150. We'll be back in a moment. Nice job, buddy.
Yeah. Shoot, man. I get used to this in studio.
Welcome back, everybody. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System. Here's a message from Mike, and it's a little awkward, Jason, but it's not even a question. It was kind of a question and a statement. Jason, doesn't Bronny have an extra room at his new house you can stay in? He won't even be back for another week.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. I think, Bronny has opened his home to me before.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of like.
You kind of need Bronny there.
Well, and I like my own space. I don't want to impose on someone's house while they're not there, or their family members either.
Right.
You know, like that's not exactly fair to anybody. But yeah, I'm enjoying my own space, and in my hotel, I can kick the shoes off after a long day and stink up the hotel room instead of somebody's house.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. So Carson Stein, when I first met him, he loves recruiting, loves it. Like he lives for it. Like that's what he wants to read, and he always helps prep for your segments and Bronny's segments. So I'm gonna allow him a question or two. We'll see how he does. All right, Mr. Stein.
Okay, so the first question I had was, I don't know if you saw it this morning, but Hassan Longstreet won the Day 1 MVP at the Elite 11 Finals. What kind of impact can that give for some of the top skill position targets like Khalid Lockett?
It's just another accolade for a guy who's already got a whole room full of them.
Yeah.
That obviously helps. It's always good to have that kind of honor, and to be able to compete with the nation's best, and come away on day one with the first impression. I mean, that's huge. Now, you got a couple more days there in California that he's going to have to shine, but he really turned a lot of heads with his quick release, and he's got a cannon.
He's got the it.
But those recruits are already singing his praises. I think Lockett said, "Hey, if I go to A&M, I can already tell that dude's going to be my best friend." Like we just really connected. And Lincoln Cure was a guy that spent a lot of time with Hassan and he couldn't sing his praises high enough. I mean, it was ridiculous.
All right, I'm going to let you have another one, Carson, because you did well.
Oh, I got another one? Okay. So I know you've talked about it before with Jonah Williams, and I know he's coming off a big LSU visit, but does the baseball team going this far in Omaha have more effect than people think when it comes to his recruitment?
Well, I mean, you're talking about a dual sport guy who's looking to have success on the baseball field as well as football. And I don't know if it's more or less, but it's definitely important seeing the run.
It's part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And having a coach like Schloss and those guys, and just everything around that baseball program, knowing that you've got the ingredients to be highly successful in both sports is a major plus.
Carson, do you have one more? I'm going to try to give you last one. Make it good, buddy.
Okay, let me spit this one out.
Uh-oh. You're right.
So when it comes to the top uncommitted offensive tackle prospects that the Aggies are looking at, I know you've said it time and time again, but here lately with all these other official visits they've taken, do you see them landing any of the three, such as Fasusi, Haywood, or Lamont Rogers?
I feel good about them landing at least one.
Maybe two?
Maybe, and I'm gonna say that's a long shot.
Okay.
That is a luxury. I think the priority has been to get one of those guys in the boat. Now, they would take all three of them and gladly, we'll figure this out, man. Come on,
right?
Everybody on board, but that's just unrealistic. I don't think there's any place in the country that's going to be able to get all three of those guys in the boat because of the competition, both Oklahoma, Texas, LSU, Missouri. They're all involved, and they don't want to lose. Their priority is to get one of those guys too. So, but I do think that they get one. I do think they get one. And if I had to place my bet right now, I would lean towards Lamont Rogers.
Okay.
I also think they're very well situated with Michael Fasusi.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ty Haywood is just so hard to read because he doesn't say a whole lot. There were a lot of really good reports coming off his visit, but Oklahoma is very much in there, and Texas is very much in there for Fasusi, and those are gonna be knockdown, drag out battles, and I think if you get one, those other guys end up coming away with one of the others.
And here I thought you were going to pull a LeBron. Not one, not two, but three offensive linemen.
Man, I would love to. But here's some, it's one of those things where it would be great for a recruiting class, but logistically, I mean, how's that even, what's the plan?
Sure.
I mean, all those guys are offensive tackles. And so and Coach Cushing and them may have like hey, this is what it is. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but that's also going to be what you're recruiting against too.
Yeah. One last prospect camp that's coming up tomorrow
on the 20th. Yes, sir.
What can we expect from that one?
It's going to be. I'm looking for a few offers to go out. They've had an offer go out at just about every camp, and at least one. And so I got a feeling you'll see an offer go out. You'll see some guys show up with offers, and those guys are going to leave talking about the coaching and what they're getting from the drills and just a positive experience. I bet we may even hear about the AC and the indoor.
Yeah. So it sounds like a shot at the Jimbo regime, and this is not. Like, in fact, they were elite recruiters, elite, right? But everything I've heard from you and Bronny is that, yeah, these guys are elite too, but with more of a plan. Is that kind of?
Well, I mean, when you go all the way back to when Jimbo got to A&M, like it wasn't. The wheels kind of fell off towards the end, and that's what happens when you're not being as successful as people expect. So you have trouble replacing people. You have trouble. With your plan and keeping stability because, hey, things aren't going as great as we'd like it to.
Yep.
But when he got there, I'm going to say it, Jimbo was recruiting at a great level.
Heck yeah.
He did recruit at a high level all the way to the end, but you could see the cracks in a lot of areas. When he first got there, it was efficient. And it was running at a big thing. So I'm not going to sit here and jump on the trash Jimbo.
No, he got a number one class.
But but it's just, but yeah, these guys are doing a great job. And you can see the plan, you can see the vision, and they are doing a great job of, I tell people, judging by the athletes that I talk to, I hear constantly about the teaching they do. And it's not just one way, they're working on the communication and how do we get the point across? How do we implement the culture and all that stuff? And it's the change is palpable. You can see it. So they have definitely made some headway over there, and everybody that comes through that building is really excited about what they're seeing and hopeful for the future.
So last thing for you, when's the pool party typically? August-ish?
Well, it's usually that there's an open period right there at the end of July, typically, and that's where you should see, the pool party come together sometime during that period. Usually that last weekend is a pretty solid guess.
By that point, 3 more commitments?
Maybe more than that. I'm
5?
telling you, I mean, I think you'll see a number of guys that have come in to visit that are making their decisions in the end of June and throughout July. So I could see 4 or 5. I don't know what the number is going to be, but I think
you could see it.
You could see, like, you got a Kearty Armstrong. It wouldn't surprise me to see one of the big receivers or another big defensive lineman or something like that jump on board, a linebacker. It wouldn't surprise me to see a few more key big national additions that people can get excited about for sure.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great stuff as always. All right, we'll hit a break here. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you're looking for a new vehicle, you should start your search there at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. See the cars that they have. See the selection that they have. And then in the back of your mind, remember what I've been telling you guys for a few years now, like the customer service second to none, right? The entire experience, the best. When you buy a car there, you know they're going to take care of you before, during, and after the process, right? That's what they do there. The service that they provide there, second to none, with complimentary pickup and delivery for their service customers. The pricing, great. The trade-in value you'll get even better. So you put that all together, you have yourself an exceptional situation at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell, a short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Again, it's on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Why am I talking like that? Rollo Insurance Studio. Before we go to Kendall Rogers, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein's got an update on baseball for us because we already got ourselves some scoring in the Kentucky-Florida game.
Yes, sir. So Florida right now is up 3-1 in the bottom of the first with 2 men on base and only 1 out. So
looks like
it could be a rout.
Well, no, it's early.
Knock on wood.
So we have, I don't want it to be I want it to like last for 10 hours. That's what I would like to see. Lopez had a single to get Kentucky on the board first, and then Shelton doubled to deep right. Jack Haglione scored, Curlin scored, and then Heyman singled to left and scored one more run. Let's go to the hotline. We are joined by Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball, the best at it. Kendall, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I am doing well. I've reached that point where I've been in Omaha enough time that I'm getting closer to wanting this thing over with. I got to admit.
Yeah, so today especially, it's a lot of baseball potentially, right? Like, I mean, not potentially. It's going to be a lot of baseball.
It really is. And, we're really lucky to have three people here, so we actually kind of rotate games. I'm actually watching the game from across the street, and I'm kind of working on some things and don't have to cover this game. So it works out. But I tell you what, this is an interesting game, the way this has started, 3-1. Both teams a little sloppy. I kind of agree with you. I think if you're A&M, you hope this thing goes 15 innings. But, we'll see how this game progresses. But, for Kentucky, at least early on, they look like a team that's just run out of gas a little bit. We'll see if that continues. But they made a couple of defensive miscues in the first inning. They look a little sleepy. We'll see if they can kind of wake up here moving forward.
Kendall, I don't know anything, all right? Let's just be honest. Like, I just talk. But yesterday when I was asked, or when I asked a question and I gave my thoughts, I thought the better matchup for A&M was Kentucky, even though Kentucky was a better team all season long. But Florida just scares me with the talent that they have. Am I wrong thinking that way?
I don't think so. I think if you're A&M, you'd rather face Kentucky. I mean, Florida now, bases loaded, 1 out in the first inning. They're just one of those teams, a lot of these kids on this roster were right here last year playing for a national championship. That stuff matters, man. And so I agree with you. I think if you look, especially with what Sully did with putting Cags in the leadoff spot today, I thought that was genius. Kind of let him get the ball rolling with the lineup. You look at the middle of the lineup: Colby Shelton, Tyler Shelnut, Kate Curlin, Luke Heyman. Those are all guys that have played at this level before, and would not be rattled by the fact they have to win 2 straight games. So I'm with you on that. I think I'd rather play Kentucky, but I'm not sure I'm liking your chances right now.
Kendall, I paid attention to college baseball before I got to TexAgs, obviously, but it was a different kind of attention, right? And I'm seeing this note from the folks in the back here that work at TexAgs that told me that this College World Series has a record viewership of over 1.2 million viewers, 5% growth from 2023. Why do you think this is becoming such a bigger deal? Because for a long time, it was football and basketball when it came to college sports, and then baseball eventually. Baseball's catching up and potentially passing.
No, it really is. I mean, I think if you look at baseball as a whole, I think people, in the NIL era, I think a lot of people get turned off, whether it's fair or not, right? Get turned off with some of the other sports. And the thing about baseball, I think people kind of view as a little bit wholesome. I think the college game's a lot of fun. In the off season, like, I love going to the Astros games in the off season. But in terms of the atmosphere, the pageantry, how close you are to the action, it's not college baseball. And I think a lot of people kind of gravitate towards that. And certainly the College World Series has helped. The World Series the last few years has been awesome. I think the rise of Paul Skeens last year was really beneficial for the sport. You think about Tennessee a couple of years ago when they were quote unquote the bad boys of college baseball. Whether you like it or not, like, people literally tuned into their games just to see kind of what they would do. So we not only have schools put a lot more money into baseball, but the products continue to get better. We've got more home runs, and we've had these storylines over the last 2 or 3 years that people have really gravitated towards.
You mentioned more home runs, but for Texas A&M, it's been a minute, and they're still winning, Kendall. I mean, they haven't hit a home run since Caden Kent. Like, it feels like for a team that can mash, it feels like a long time.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at A&M, the first 2 games in Omaha, I mean, really it's just been a couple innings they've actually scored some runs. So I think if you're A&M, really in tonight's game, what you want to do is establish kind of a consistent pattern. If you look at the first game, they had a chance to score runs in multiple innings. I think they had bases loaded once and then 2 guys on maybe another time with 1 out. They were unable to get any runs in. But, you're going to have to score against this Florida team. I mean, right now they just hit a grand slam. They're up 7-1 now. So there's no doubt they're going to need to score some runs.
Well, goodness gracious, 7 runs is a lot in that first inning. Holy cow. All right, so
that's a lot of runs at Charles Schwab to have to come back from.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, let's talk about pitching then, because we're not going to see Ryan Brauninger later today, but we saw him A couple nights ago, 6 2/3 was masterful, 6 innings of no-hit ball. Just that version of Ryan Prager is the best version of Ryan Prager, obviously, but he's been pretty darn good all year, beyond pretty darn good. He's been excellent all year long.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, he is kind of. I put this in my headline the other day, but he is like Mr. Bounce Back. Like he's one of those guys that, I mean, when he has a bad start, he is the automatic money in the next game, and he was that way once again over the weekend. I actually think the way the Oregon Super Regional panned out for Prager was perfect, especially for this run in Omaha. The fact that you won the game, that he only pitched like 34 pitches in. I mean, that's a lot of rest, only throw 34 pitches and essentially have a week and a half off. So, you know, he was obviously fresh. You know, I said it on our preview podcast that morning that I thought he matched up really well with that ballpark, with his ability to keep the breaking ball and the changeup very low in the zone. You're going to have to really hit that ball hard to get it out of that ballpark from that angle. And so he fits his part perfectly. So, you know, he has been money all year long, and it's a really cool story because, you know, kids have Tommy John surgery. You never know how they're going to respond, and he's responding in pretty brilliant fashion, to say the least.
So no Braden Montgomery, potentially no Jace. Hopefully there is some Jace. Shane Cedeo's out. And this team is winning games. And I think what you just said a moment ago really catches my attention. It really has been just 2 offensive innings. That cannot continue if they're going to win a College World Series. Can that continue to win tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I do think A&M wins tonight and closes this thing out. I think for Florida, as impressive as they are right now in the first inning, and I get that it's literally 30 minutes of baseball, but, you know, because anything can happen. But playing 2 games in a day at this level is really hard. And honestly, if I'm Florida, I'd rather play this game, especially with how big of a heater they're on right now. I'd rather play this game than immediately play A&M as opposed to going back to the Courtyard Marriott and sitting around for 5 hours, then going back out and playing. So I actually think the schedule, the way it is, sets up really well for A&M. But if they don't win tonight, A&M's going to have to come back, I think, tomorrow, and they're going to have to step up. Because at that point, I think Florida probably could bring Liam Peterson back, who, you know, he had command issues against A&M, but he was effective at times.
Kendall, I think it's interesting, too, that this allows Florida to use their starter long-term, right? They don't have to go deep into the bullpen if they've got a 6-run lead. Am I seeing that incorrectly?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're going to ride Pierce Capola now, as long as they possibly can. And so, yeah, that is a blessing for Sully that they're up this big, because you really don't need to pull him at this point until maybe Kentucky gets to 4 or 5 runs. You kind of feel like your offense can match what they're able to come back with.
So what are you hearing about Jace Lavalette? Are you encouraged, not encouraged? Do you think we see him later today? Do you think we see him at DH? Do we see him out in right field? Do we see him at all?
I kind of jive with what Bronny. I think Bronny tweeted something out or put something on the message board yesterday. There was a positive report, and I've heard the same thing. If I'm being honest, I haven't dug on it too much, but I was talking to somebody yesterday that had a pretty good feeling about his positioning. My hunch would be this. My hunch would be, given the fact they don't have to win this game, that he would DH. You know, Schloss mentioned yesterday that Hayden Shaw could play in the outfield. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of the most interesting to me, because, you know, Hayden is walking a little bit better on that knee than he was in the Oregon series. But, I mean, the Oregon series, I was kind of joking with him about it the other day in the lobby, the hotel. But, like, it looked like he kind of had a trailer attached to him or something. So I don't know. I don't know about shot in the outfield, but they may not have a choice. I mean, they just may have a huge liability in right field.
Talking to Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball here on TexAgs Radio. Kendall, let's talk about Hayden Schott and how hot he has been for this team, because you mentioned if they could put him out in the outfield. Offensively, he has been so nails, especially since that Texas game.
Yeah, the thing I like about this team a lot right now is every single time you kind of think, okay, like this injury, that injury, this situation, like they've got to take a step back. And that hasn't happened. You looked at up and down the lineup, Hayden's hitting over 600 in conference play, in postseason action, I believe. And then Kent, the job that he's done has been remarkable. Sometimes I think, Jim mentioned this after Braden got hurt, but he said, sometimes when you're kind of forced into action, you kind of play your highest level because you're basically forced to play your highest level. And he's had really good at bats. Kent's gotten big hits. I thought one of the sneaky impressive things that he did the other night was he had to move to third base after Jace got hurt. And I mean, I can tell you, like, moving from second to third is a big difference. And he had one play over there that he had to make. He made it, and actually made a really strong throw over first. I actually made the comment to Bronny that I didn't realize that Kent had that strong of an arm. And so, I've been really impressed with what he's done, especially in that situation.
So knowing that it's not for sure Florida, it's super early, but could be Florida based on the score, right? I mean, as you mentioned, do you think Brad Rudis gets to start later on tonight?
That would be my hunch. I don't know how much I like Rudis matching up with Florida, but that would be my hunch at this point. Here's the other question. Here's what I was thinking about earlier. Does Schloss roll with like a Caden Wilson? A guy that, that he's had moments this year where it has not been very pretty, but you think back to the Oregon Super, and he comes in with bases loaded and finds a way out. I kind of wonder if that moment was kind of a turning point for Caden Wilson. But, you're talking about a lefty, up to 94, 95 with pretty good breaking stuff. It's Tadeo-esque in the velo and things like that.
So if they do end up doing that, what do you think about Lampkin? What do you think about Tanner Jones? When do you think we've seen those guys?
Yeah, I would think Lampkin would go tomorrow. I don't know if I wouldn't be totally shocked if Lampkin starts tonight. I don't know who they're starting, but I want to say Lampkin threw like 50-something pitches maybe the other night, 50, 55, 60. And so, this is 4 days of rest at this point. So, if you're Schloss, you could just go for the jugular and just start Lampkin and basically have the exact same plan that you had against Florida the last time. Although I do think if Lampkin threw and he threw well, I think no matter who starts, if they throw well, I don't think you can take them out to put Cortez in the fourth inning. You need Cortez in the finals. And so, that'll be really interesting to see how Jim manages that.
All right, so give me your thoughts on Tennessee, Florida State. Does Florida State have a chance to turn this into a series?
They could. The thing about FSU is, they scored 27 runs in the World Series so far. They're really offensive. They can hang with Tennessee offensively. Xander Sechrist, I know he's had a really good year, but he's one of those guys that the stuff is not overly flashy. Florida State's not going to go, oh, man, we can't hit this guy. He's going to pitch to contact. And so they're going to hit the ball against Tennessee. The question is, can they have the same kind of power production they've had throughout this, World Series? So, yeah, I think that those two teams have a really good shot to go 2 games on that side of the bracket. And frankly, if you're A&M, you don't really have a preference. I kind of feel like both those teams offensively are very similar. I think Tennessee has more pitching depth, but offensively, it's a wash. Those are both two really, really good offensive teams.
Well, how would you say Tennessee has gotten here this year? Because we think about the brashness of Tony Vitello, although I think he's dialed it back a tad bit, right? This is kind of a different feel than the 2 years ago when we thought they were going to win it all.
Yeah, the thing I liked about Tennessee all year long is this is not a loud, pompous team at all. If anything, they're just very business-like. That's not to say if you're going to slide into them and things like that, they're just going to let you do it. They're going to let you hear about it. But they've had a very business-like approach, and it's kind of shown in the way they played each game here, each weekend leading up to the World Series. They've just played a very solid, consistent brand of baseball. And of course, when you have Christian Moore, Blake Burke, and Billy Amick in the middle of that lineup, it makes life pretty easy for Josh Eland as a hitting coach.
That is Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball. Kendall, thank you so much for your time, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it, buddy. We'll see you.
See you, man. All right, we'll do this.
Right,
we'll hit a break here on TexAgs Radio. We'll come back with some updates on Braden Montgomery, not physically, but MLB draft stuff that Cade's got for us. So we'll do that on the other side. We'll get to some final text messages and some final thoughts. We'll see you in a few. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Auto Insurance Studio. Time to end the day with Double Dave's caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We'll hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's, serving Aggieland since 1984. They have your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. Cade, you told me that Blake gave you information that was given to him by ESPN. What information do you have for Braden Montgomery?
Well, let's see. So Braden Montgomery is projected now in the new mock draft from ESPN Plus to go 6th overall. There was also Ryan Brauninger was projected to go in the 2nd round at the 45th overall pick. And then Cortez was among the players listed to potentially go in the 3rd round there. So looking good for the Aggies in this upcoming MLB draft.
Yeah, it sure does. Absolutely does. And considering it was a clean break, if you will, for Braden, his recovery should hopefully not be affected, and he should be good to go. So that's great news right there. Let's go to Carson Stein at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Any final text messages to close out the program?
I wanted to get into this one from Matt in Austin, who says, I know we will have to throw Brauninger in a final series, but how much does the fact that Tennessee saw him for 60 pitches in Hoover matter?
Say that again. What was that last part?
I know we will have to throw Brauninger in a final series, but how much does the fact that Tennessee saw him for 60 pitches in Hoover matter?
I mean, it probably matters a little bit, but this is a different A&M team that was in Hoover. And that was a Tennessee team that was hot, right? They figured it out in that session. So what matters is to be the last man standing. And, they're going to see Brauninger. That's the bottom line is they're going to see him. So hopefully they get the best version of Ryan Brauninger if A&M is able to get there and Tennessee is able to get there. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio on a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the program, should have Stephen McGee at some point. I'll have to double check on that. But we'll have a lot of baseball for you. I'm going to try to get some of the ESPN analysts on the program. Of course, we'll get reports from Bronny. We'll get reports back there from Zane, Billy Lucci, and a lot more. So we'll have all that. My thanks to all of our great guests today. Kendall Rogers bringing it from Omaha. We also had Jason Howell in studio. That doesn't happen very often, so I love that. Coach Satania and Connor Schulman there. Mario Satania and Coach Connor Schulman joined us there for the track spotlight. Bronny, and, of course, Olin Buchanan. All right, friends, thanks so much. Aggie's got to beat the hell out of somebody. Probably the Gators. Maybe not. Maybe probably. We'll talk about that tomorrow and hopefully an A&M victory. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll see you mañana.